Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. Marvel's Magic Master. Chapter 101, First Mission. Urza's last mission was to defeat the rebellious demons, so that horn should be her trophy. Urza walked into the hall and put the horn in her hand on the ground. The entire guild floor couldn't help but tremble. Myra Jane explained to George and Lucy in time. A horn is so big, so the devil's body must be as big as the guild. It's really scary. Lucy couldn't help but cover her mouth in shock, and George was also deeply shocked. He felt that the S-class magicians in this world might be much more powerful than he had previously expected. It didn't seem too strenuous to defeat a demon more than 10 meters high. But it's also possible that Urza herself is among the best among S-class. Let me tell you, I heard a lot of rumors along the way, saying that we in Fairy Tale are always causing trouble all day long. Even if the president forgives you, I will not forgive you. Kana, is this how you drink? Bixita, if you want to dance, dance outside. Don't stand on the table. Wakabanabu Makao. Putting down the devil horn in her hand, Urza pinched her waist and began to scold the magicians of the guild one by one. But those magicians whose names were called did not dare to say a word. Even Natsu and Grey, who were not even afraid of the president, were able to start having sex not long after they met. At this time, when facing Urza, they were all holding hands and pretending to be good brothers, which made Lucy dumbfounded. She is truly the eldest sister of the guild and the queen of fairies. When George saw this, he secretly exclaimed, "It's really just the wrong name, not the wrong nickname." He has also been in the guild for a while and has a certain understanding of the personalities of most of the magicians here. To be honest, most of the magicians in Fairy Tale have a similar temperament. Even if there is a gap in strength, no one in the guild is convinced by anyone, and fights are common. Being scolded like today and yet not daring to talk back at all, it can only be said that Urza's status in the hearts of the Fairy Tale wizards is indeed a bit unusual. Are you new members? After completing a training circle, Urza happened to see the new faces George and Lucy, so she walked over. Lucy's body trembled when she saw this, and she immediately stretched out her hand to say hello. "My name is Lucy, I'm a new member who just joined. Please give me your advice." "My name is Urza. You don't have to be so polite. You can treat this place as your second home from now on. We are all your brothers and sisters." Urza reached out and grabbed Lucy's shoulders with a serious look on her face. Then she seemed to think of something again, and her eyes suddenly lit up. "So you are Lucy. When I first arrived in town, I heard that you easily defeated the vicious monster Vulcan Gorilla with just one finger. You did a great job." This. Lucy was immediately dumbfounded. The day she first joined the guild, she did fight the Vulcan Gorilla with Natsu when he went to rescue Macau, but she mainly relied on Natsu's output. She just played as a support. Who could defeat the Vulcan Gorilla with one finger? Bullshit! My name is George. I joined Lucy on the same day. Please give me your advice in the future." George also extended his cat paw to say hello. Urza looked at George closely and nodded subconsciously. "Hello, George, I always thought that hubby was an alien, but I didn't expect that he actually had the same kind. Your colors match well with Laxus, maybe you can consider forming a team with him in the future." The colors match. George was stunned for a moment when he heard this. Myra Jane next to her smiled and said, "The president doesn't want George and Laxus to team up. Laxus has a bad relationship with the president. He spends most of his time away on missions and rarely comes back a few times a year. If George teamed up with Laxus, he would no longer be able to play the role of a firefighter." "Why?" Hearing Marajana's words, Urza had a confused look on her face, but when she learned about George's best repair magic, she picked up George and hugged her with excitement. "George, team up with me." She has always been afraid to go all out because she is worried about damaging the surrounding buildings. Every time she completes the task, she is not happy. If George can follow behind to repair it, her efficiency in completing the task will be greatly improved. We will be paid 50-50. No, I don't want to form a team just yet. George squeezed out of Urza's arms with difficulty, shook his confused cat head, and decisively rejected the invitation to form a team. Urza's attack was too fast, and at such a close distance, even if he could react, his body would not have time to dodge. If you think of it as normal, this can be considered a benefit. After all, Urza is indeed very beautiful and has a good temperament. But now that Urza was wearing a set of hard armor, the feeling of being held in her arms wasn't very good. Fortunately, he was in good health, otherwise he might have fainted from the hug just now. That's such a shame. Hearing George's answer, Urza showed a regretful expression, then looked at Myra Jane and asked. By the way, where's the president? I have something important to report to him. Why didn't I see him? The president went to attend a regular meeting. Myra Jane replied. Urza frowned when she heard this, and after thinking for a moment, she turned to look at Natsu and Grey behind her. The two who were originally head-to-head and neither of them gave way to the other immediately hugged each other again when they saw Urza turn her head. Natsu, Grey, I encountered a troublesome thing during the mission and need your help. Would you like to go with me to perform this mission? What? Urza actually asked for help, this is the first time. And it's Natsu and Grey. Hearing Urza's words, not only Natsu and Grey were very surprised, but all the wizards in the guild except George and Lucy were boiling. You know, with Urza's strength, she basically took on S-level missions on the second floor, and she always completed them alone, and never needed to team up with others for help. This is the first time in history. Of course I am willing. After being surprised, Natsu and Grey immediately agreed excitedly. Although both parties did not want to team up with each other, it was definitely a very challenging task to be able to do missions with Urza. This kind of training opportunity cannot be missed. Go back and prepare, we'll set off tomorrow. Seeing that Natsu and Grey didn't refuse, Urza turned around and left the guild first with the devil horns raised. As soon as Urza left, the wizards in the guild immediately started to discuss, wondering what kind of powerful enemy Urza was going to face that she needed Natsu and Grey's help. There were all kinds of speculations, and some even speculated that it was the legendary dragon. Lucy, George, I want to ask you for a favor. At this time, Myra Jane suddenly shouted to Lucy and George who were listening to the gossip. Chapter 102 Gold Medal Assistant. What's wrong, Sister Myra Jane? Lucy and George turned around. Myra Jane grabbed Lucy with one hand and George with the other. I hope you two can follow Urza and the others tomorrow. What, me? Lucy's face was full of disbelief. Her strength couldn't help much. But George's eyes turned and he had guessed the reason for looking for him. Sure enough, Myra Jane then patiently explained. Lucy, Natsu, and Grey will definitely quarrel behind Urza's back. You can help stop them. George, your task is more important. Whether the president can come out alive at the end of the next council meeting depends on you. Myra Jane. That's too exaggerated. Okay. I'll try my best. George couldn't help but twitch his mouth, and in Marajana's gentle and expectant eyes, he still agreed. It was obvious that Myra Jane was worried that Urza, Natsu and Grey would team up and cause great damage, so she wanted him to help put out the fire with repair magic. Since he had indeed received a lot of care from the presidents and fairy tale wizards during this period, it was difficult for him to refuse. In particular, he was curious about what kind of trouble Urza encountered. What an S-class wizard could call a trouble, would there be any clues about the Dragon Slayer crystal? In fact, before the super wand was made, he might not necessarily agree. Things that make S-class wizards feel difficult must be accompanied by considerable danger. With his previous strength, he is likely to be injured or even die. But with the super wand, his strength has been greatly improved, and the power of many magics has increased by nearly 10 times. He feels that even if he encounters danger, he can still escape if he can't fight. Seeing George agree, Lucy was embarrassed to refuse, and nodded with some worry and excitement. Worry is naturally about the danger she will face, and excitement is because this is not the adventure she expects to escape from the life of a big lady and come to fairy tale. The next day, Magnolia City train station. George came to the station early with a small school bag on his back, and then took out a magic book from the school bag and read it. It's called a small school bag, but actually when it's on George's cat clone, it's only about the size of a purse. But don't underestimate this purse-sized school bag. After the super wand casts the traceless extension spell, the space inside is comparable to a small 40 square meter room. With such a large storage space, he can carry a lot of magic books on the road, and he can continue to study and learn magic at other times except for combat time. He has already started learning giant magic and light magic, and he has also begun to slowly study other types of magic that are relatively simple but helpful for his current combat. George. About 5 minutes later, a familiar voice interrupted his reading. It was Lucy, who arrived early like him. Today, Lucy wore a yellow sling with a blue miniskirt, which especially highlighted her figure. In addition, the arc of the left and right swing when running made George couldn't help but take a few more glances. Apart from other things, in terms of thunder, Lucy should be the one who can rank among the female wizards of fairy tale he has seen. Not long after Lucy arrived, Natsu, Happy and Gray also arrived, but Natsu and Gray started arguing again as soon as they met. "Sorry, I kept you waiting." Seeing that the train was about to leave, Urza finally appeared in front of everyone dragging a large cart. "Why are there so many luggages?" Lucy was petrified on the spot when she saw dozens of suitcases full of luggage on the large cart. Who would bring so many luggages when going out for a mission? Happy whispered. Urza has obsessive-compulsive disorder. Every time she goes out for a mission, she has to take all her clothes with her. It seems that she has a lot of magic weapons and armor. George's concern was not Urza's luggage, but Urza's magic weapons and armor. After learning about the characteristics of the dress-up magic in detail in the library, he knew that the space of the dress-up magic was not only for magic weapons, but also other daily things. However, the strength of most dress-up magicians is limited. It is already very good to have space for 1 or 2 magic weapons, and there is no room for other things. But an S-class wizard like Urza must have a large space. But Urza did not put the luggage into the space, which only means that her space must have a lot of magic weapons and armor. Yes, the mission reward for an S-class wizard is quite high, so he should not be short of money. "Iluza, if you don't mind, you can put your luggage in my magic props first." After thinking for a while, he put down his backpack and took the initiative to propose. He has 3 purposes for this mission. The first is to repay the resources and help he has received from the guild during this period. The second is to see if he can find out about the Dragon Slayer crystal. Third, by the way, he can get along well with the strongest wizards in the guild, and maybe he can use them in the future. For example, if he has news about the Dragon Slayer crystal in the future, but the enemy is very powerful, he can ask the wizards in the guild who owe him favors to help him, so that he will not fight alone. "George, you actually have a rare space magic prop, so I'll trouble you." Seeing George stuff the big magic book into his small backpack, Urza's eyes lit up immediately. She guessed that George's small backpack was a rare space magic prop, and nodded happily. Putting the small backpack on the ground and opening it, George activated the magnetic force, and the magic wand with an iron ring in the backpack flew out and fell into his hand. "Move quickly." The object transfer spell was activated, and as the magic wand continued to wave, the suitcases automatically lined up and entered the small backpack on the ground. Wow! Looking at this scene in front of them, Urza and others showed surprise. Although George's magic is not powerful, it looks very special, like art. Whether it is repairing items, cleaning, or lining up the suitcases to enter the backpack like today. I'm not very good at fighting, but I know some auxiliary magic, I hope it can help you. Putting the backpack back on his back, George said modestly. This time, unless necessary, he did not intend to go to the battlefield to fight in person. After all, the enemy this time was not the low-level wizards he had encountered before, and it was still a bit dangerous. He can use his magic to assist, and being a gold medal assist is not bad. You don't need to fight, when the time comes, all the enemies will be left to me, Natsu, Gray, and Lucy. Urza patted her chest and clapped her armor. Lucy's face was a little bitter. She wanted to tell Urza that she was not very strong and could not defeat the Vulcan gorilla with just one finger. Chapter 103 Top-Level Staff Body. When everyone arrived, Urza's luggage included George's backpack, and there was no need to find a staff member to store it, so the four of them and the two cats got on the train together. Gray and Natsu sat in a row, with Happy in the middle, Lucy and Urza sat in a row, and George sat in the middle. However, as soon as the train started, Natsu's whole state immediately changed. He lost the lively look he had just down there, and his face was full of pain, as if he was motion sick. What happened to him? George asked in surprise. He could understand car sickness and seasickness, but this was the first time he heard of train sickness. Especially with Natsu's abnormal physical fitness, it is even more impossible for this situation to happen. Normal people don't get train sick. Natsu is stunned by all means of transportation. As long as it is a means of transportation, he will be like this. Just get used to it. Hubby took out a small dried fish from his bag and chewed it in his mouth as he explained. He was used to being Natsu's partner. By the way, George, do you want one? After speaking, he took out one and handed it to George, but George declined. His body is a cat, but his soul is a human. He is not as fond of dried fish as Happy. It's unreasonable to feint all means of transportation. He didn't understand what was going on, but he still pulled out his wand and cast a levitation spell on Natsu. Wingardim, Leviosa. Under the influence of the levitation spell, Natsu slowly floated up from the seat. He neither touched the seat nor the bottom of the car, and just floated in the middle. Natsu, who was in this state, immediately regained his energy and opened his mouth to spit out a mouthful of flames. Haha, I'm back again, thank you George. As long as it works. George nodded. His magic power is unlimited. With the increase of the super wand, it is not a problem to maintain a floating spell for half an hour. If you use it a few times, you can make Natsu float to the station. Natsu is one of the main combatants in this mission, so he naturally wants to ensure that he is always in good condition. Otherwise, what if we encounter an enemy attack? We can't let him take over. Urza, we've already set off, and you haven't told us what's going on. At this time, Gray took the initiative to ask Urza. Until now, they still don't know what kind of trouble Urza is talking about, and who the enemy they need to deal with is. Urza nodded and began to tell the story. It turned out that just a few days ago, she had just completed her mission and was about to return to the guild. When passing by a tavern where magicians gathered in Onabasai, she overheard the conversation of several Black Iron Forest Guild magicians. The general content of the conversation was that the Black Iron Forest had found the legendary cursed flute, and wanted to unseal the cursed flute and use its powerful curse-killing power to carry out some big plan. It turned out to be the cursed flute. After listening to Urza's story, George's eyes suddenly lit up. He had read about the curse flute in a book about magic props in the library. According to legend, the cursed flute was originally a magic tool used to cast curse-killing magic. It was later modified by Zeref, the most evil black wizard in the legend, and evolved into a magic flute. Anyone who hears the sound of the magic flute will immediately be cursed by death magic and die. The attack range is very large. What he cares about is not the curse-killing power of the cursed flute. That thing is indeed powerful, but with his strength, it is impossible to take it as his own, and it can kill a whole group of people with just one blow, unless he wants to be defeated by the demons of the entire kingdom. The guide hunted him down. The main reason is that the book not only contains an introduction, but also a picture of the flute of the curse. It is a thick flute made of wood with a skull-shaped head. In other words, if you take it back and sharpen it a little, you will have a very good stick body. He always felt that the body of his super wand was not worthy of the core. If he used a section of the cursed flute as the body, he felt that the effect of the wand would be improved several times. Especially for black magic with a curse like the Shenfeng Shadowless Curse. "George, do you know about the cursed flute?" Urza asked, noticing the change in George's expression. George nodded and didn't hide it. "I saw it in a book about magic items in the library. The lullaby of the cursed flute is. It's such a dangerous thing, so we can't just let it go." After listening to George's introduction, Urza had a solemn look on her face. The Black Iron Forest is a guild of dark magicians. The magicians in it take on illegal tasks such as assassinations, but few are kind-hearted. What they use the cursed flute to do is definitely not a good thing. Maybe a lot of people will be killed. I didn't react before, otherwise I would have blood sacrificed those magicians of the Black Iron Forest on the spot, and forced me to find out what they wanted to do with the cursed flute. "So what do we do now?" Lucy asked, a little scared. She felt that this mission seemed dangerous, and she already regretted it. "Go directly to the Black Iron Forest Guild headquarters. We will go to the guild to defeat all their magicians and take away the cursed flute." Urza revealed her simple and crude plan. She had planned to go directly to the Black Iron Forest before, but she felt it was a bit risky to take on an entire guild by herself. She was mainly worried that someone would secretly transfer the flute of the curse while she was fighting, so she decided to go back to find Natsu and Grey first. "It seems to be fun." Grey's face showed no fear, while Natsu was so excited that his 7 orifices were spitting fire. "It's great to beat all of them. I want to go home." Lucy's face was sweating. A few people came to attack an entire guild, and it was a dark magic guild famous for assassinations. This was simply too scary. George felt okay about this. He thought that Urza, as an S-class magician, should not act recklessly. Since she dared to come to the door, it meant that she had a certain degree of confidence. And in Urza's plan, she, Natsu and Grey were enough to challenge the Black Iron Forest. Now with Lucy and him, the confidence should be even greater. He would not comment on Lucy for now. At least he was not only a supporting role. When it was really critical, his magic and superpowers were not vegetarian. When the train was heading to Onabasai, where the Black Iron Forest was located, Makarov, who was attending a routine meeting of the Guild Leaders Union in Kruba City, also received a magic letter from Myra Jane. President Makarov, Miss Myra Jane has written to you." The blue magic bird delivered the letter to Makarov, who was bragging about being a wizard in his guild with other guild leaders. Makarov reached out and input magic power into the envelope, and a small magic circle slowly emerged on the envelope. Chapter 104 The Cat Wants to Drive. In the magic circle, the phantom left by Marajana's shadow magic rose. "President, thank you for attending the regular meeting. Look, this is our guild's signature beauty, isn't she beautiful?" Makarov pointed at Marajana's phantom in the magic circle and showed off to the other presidents with a proud face. Upon seeing this, the presidents nodded in praise. Apparently the gentle and beautiful Myra Jane really amazed them. But Marajana's next words made Makarov so frightened that he almost sat down on the ground. During the president's absence, something wonderful happened to the guild. Can you believe it? Urza, Natsu and Grey formed a team. I think this should be the strongest team combination in Fairy Tale right now. Just now, the president of the Four-Headed Hounds was reminding him that the council has been worried that the wizards of Fairy Tale would one day destroy a city, and asked him to tell the wizards below to pay more attention. But now, he may be facing such a crisis. Urza, Natsu and Gray, it's really not difficult for these three to team up to destroy a city. Fortunately, Mirajana's next words finally made him feel relieved. George's repair magic has made great progress recently and can now repair the entire hall instantly, so I asked him to accompany me. I feel that I should inform you about this matter, so I wrote this letter. After Myra Jane finished speaking, the magic circle disappeared, and Makarov secretly prayed. George, it's all up to you now. President Makarov, you fairy tale and magicians who can repair magic, why haven't you heard of this kind of magic? One of the presidents asked curiously. Makarov immediately puffed up his chest. We at Fairy Tale are full of talented people who know all kinds of magic. This George is also here because of his reputation. With George, I don't have to listen to the nagging of those people in the council anymore. That might not be repair magic, maybe it's the lost magic Arc of Time. Another old president with a beard guessed. The Arc of Time, a lost kind of time magic, can return the state of things to the past or push it into the future, repairing or aging damaged things, buildings, or everything that happened before, like time turning. But it is ineffective against organisms other than plants. 3 hours later, the train stopped at one bus station. The curse stops immediately. After lifting the floating spell and putting Natsu down, George got off the train with everyone. Urza, do you know the specific location of the Black Iron Forest Guild? I don't know. Since they were expelled from the guild by the Guild Alliance 6 years ago and were defined as a dark guild, the headquarters has moved away from its original location. It is still unclear whether it is in Onibus or not. Urza shook her head. Lucy and Happy complained at the same time. Then finding them is not a needle in a haystack. It doesn't matter. As long as we capture a mage from the Black Iron Forest and beat him half to death, we can force him to find out the location of their guild. Urza's method is still simple and crude. Gray couldn't help but cover his forehead. It doesn't seem to be that easy to find a few magicians in a city. Urza, do you know the names of the wizards of the Black Iron Forest? At this time, George suddenly said. I can use tracking magic. As long as you tell me a person's name, I can use it to track his location. He didn't want to waste time on meaningless things like looking for someone, so he planned to help. Not bad, George. Urza hugged George into her arms. So hard. George felt his head hit again. He decided to stay away from Urza when walking in the future. This girl's armor was too hard, and he still liked the feeling of being held in Mirajana's arms. I don't know the names of the wizards in the Black Iron Forest, but I know that there is a very famous wizard in the Black Iron Forest named Elager. Urza introduced. Eriger, the president of the Black Iron Forest, is also the strongest ace mage in the Black Iron Forest. He has never failed in the assassination missions he has taken over. He is called the God of Death, Elager. It's good to have a name. George took out his magic wand from his backpack and began to cast magic. Eriger, the direction appears. A golden arrow appeared in front of George. The arrow pointed not inside the city, but outside the city. George, you know so much magic. Seeing the golden arrow appear, Lucy couldn't help but feel a little envious. George smiled. I don't have the strength like you to defeat a Vulcan gorilla with one finger, so I can only help you a little. I told you it was a rumor, a rumor. Lucy's face immediately turned red. According to the arrow, the other party is outside the city, maybe not even outside Onibus City, so I suggest renting a magic car to be safer. At this time Gray suggested. If the Black Iron Forest was somewhere in the forest outside the city, they might be able to find it within an hour or two of walking. If they had moved to another city, they might not be able to find it after walking for several days. The key point is that this guide refers to Elager, who may not be in the guild. I agree. George nodded. Compared to the simple-minded Natsu and Urza, whose personality was obviously not normal, although Gray had a habit of naked bodies, at least his IQ was online. I don't agree, I don't want to ride in the car. Natsu immediately raised his hands to object, but Urza punched him and knocked him to the ground. The objection is invalid. I'm going to rent a car. You guys wait for me outside the station. Soon, Urza drove a green car outside the station. George looked at the green car in front of him with a little curiosity on his face. Is this a magic car? This is a magical world. Basically, most of the items are related to magic. Even guns and cannons are powered by magic to attack. Therefore, the cars in this world are also magic cars driven by magic power, rather than electricity and gasoline. The structure of the magic car is not complicated. The seats in the back are the same as in a normal car, and the driving position is like a carriage in the front. In addition to the joystick, accelerator, and brake, there is only a bracelet connected to the human body to input magic power. Get in the car quickly. I don't know what Elijah is going to do with the cursed flute, but it's definitely not a good thing. We have to find him quickly. Urza waved to everyone. But at this time, George shook his head after thinking for a while. Urza, I think it's better for me to drive the magic car. You? You can't. This magic car consumes a lot of magic power. Only my magic power can drive it for a long time. Urza was stunned for a moment when she heard this, and then immediately waved her hand. Chapter 105 The Raging Cat. However, George did not give up. Urza, it is precisely because you are the strongest here that you have to conserve your magic power. Otherwise, you will consume most of your magic power after finding the Iron Forest Guild, and it will be really troublesome then. Don't worry, even without magic power, I will fight to the end with a stick, not to mention Natsu and Grey are here. Urza said firmly. Over there, Natsu breathed out a mouthful of fire into the sky with excitement on his face. Ha ha ha, leave it to me, the strongest mage in fairy tale, and I will beat them all down. I am the strongest mage in fairy tale. Grey opened his coat, revealing his 8-pack abs. What are you talking about, you boring pervert? Stinky Flame, what do you think? Do you want to have a fight here? Let's fight, let's decide the outcome here today. I said you guys should be honest with me. We must love each other as partners. How can you talk like this? Urza took off the connecting device on her wrist, got out of the car and punched both of them to the ground. George took the opportunity to fly to the driver's seat and said, Actually, although my strength is limited, my magic power is restored very quickly. If there is really a problem, you can replace me in time. He has wizard blood, and there is no such thing as running out of magic power. But George, even if you can input magic power, you still can't drive it. Your hand can't reach the joystick or the brake. At this moment Lucy quietly raised her hand. George is a cat with a body length of only more than 30 centimeters. Even if he can put a bracelet on his body to output magic power, he cannot operate a magic car at all. Unless George only outputs magic power and another person drives the magic car. It's not a big deal. George obviously wanted to experience the joy of driving a magic car for himself. A magic circle flashed above his head, and the cat's body immediately grew in size. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a big golden cat as big as a tiger. He walked to the driver's seat of the magic car and sat down, put the connected bracelet on the cat's wrist, put his two front paws on the steering wheel, and his back paws could just reach the accelerator and brake. Happy, they're both cats, so why is there such a big gap? Lucy looked at the transformed George and Happy, who was eating fish on Natsu's shoulder, and couldn't help but murmur. And Happy over there obviously heard this muttering. He looked at Urza and then at Lucy and said accurately. Lucy, she is also a female mage. Why is there such a big gap? Lucy suddenly felt pricked in her heart. Let's go. After Urza, Natsu, Grey, Happy and Lucy all piled into the car, George pressed the accelerator to the bottom, and the magic car shot out immediately, and within a moment there was only a green dot left. I didn't expect that I could enjoy racing in another world. Turning the steering wheel, he made a silky drift through the big bend in front, passing a slow carriage, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The driver of the carriage he overtook rubbed his eyes in confusion. I saw a big cat racing. George, can your magic power hold up when you drive so fast? Urza poked her head out of the trunk and said worriedly. George wagged his tail, indicating that it was not a big problem. It feels good to race for a while, and it feels good to race all the time. Half an hour later, near Gunyuki's station, a group of soldiers in armor stopped George, who was rushing towards him, in shock. Cat, stop the car and get inspected. We are the wizards of Fairy Tale, what's the problem? Urza immediately got out of the car and showed her identity. After verifying the magic tattoo, the leading team leader explained. I'm sorry, the magicians from the Dark Guild Black Iron Forest robbed a train at this station. We are conducting a routine search. The magic train started up again, and everyone continued to follow the arrow while discussing the intention of the Black Iron Forest to hijack the train. The train can only travel in a fixed direction along the track, but it can carry a large number of people and its speed is much faster than ordinary carriages and other means of transportation. So they all agreed that the other party might be taking the cursed flute to a certain city where the train stopped. Sure enough, the direction pointed by the next arrow was always the direction of the track extension, and their guess was confirmed. Passing through the cities of Gunyukis and Oibana, they soon approached the city of Kroba. Found it. Not far from the city of Kroba, they found an abandoned train on the tracks. Unfortunately, the train was already empty, and there was no sign of the Black Iron Forest wizard. It seems that their target is Kroba city. Urza frowned. At this moment, George suddenly thought of something and said with a solemn expression. If I remember correctly, the place where the president and his friends hold their regular meetings seems to be in Kroba city. When he asked Myra Jane yesterday about the whereabouts of the president, Myra Jane mentioned the location of this year's regular meeting. George, you mean their target is our president? Lucy's eyes suddenly widened. There was a hint of coldness coming out of Gray's body. I'm afraid it's not just our president, but all the presidents. Imagine what would happen if all the presidents of the regular Mage Guild were cursed to death by the cursed flute at the same time. The wheels are still hot and the train has just stopped. George, please continue to use the tracking magic, we must stop them before they find the president. Arisa touched the train wheel and asked George with a serious face. I am also a member of Fairy Tale, and I have no choice but to do it. George activated the tracking spell again and drove the magic car to chase the Black Iron Forest wizards. Finally, on the streets of Kroba City, they blocked Eligary and other Black Iron Forest wizards. Eliger, hand over the cursed flute, and don't make mistakes anymore. Who are you? Eligary, with his upper body naked, bandages on his hands, and a scythe of death in his hand, narrowed his eyes as he looked at the magic car in front of him and the wizards coming out of it. He could have used the cursed flute to curse all the presidents inside the villa outside the north of the city, but now he was stopped. The key is, how did the other party know his plan? How did they know that he had the cursed flute? Fairy Tale Wizard Urza. Natsu. Gray. Lucy. Happy. George. After subconsciously following everyone to sign up, George inexplicably felt a little excited. But soon his reason suppressed this feeling of enthusiasm. As a magician, he thought it was better not to be too enthusiastic. Rushing over while shouting about friendship, bond, partner, etc., did not fit his style. Reporting the results, the first order was more than 1,600. Thank you for your support. To be honest, it exceeded my psychological expectations. I thought it would be 2,000 follow-up readers, and I was very satisfied with the first order of 1,500. So, according to the agreement, I will continue to update 5 chapters today. Let's work hard. Chapter 106, Armor of the Wind God. Recovering his normal size and spreading his wings, George flew into the air and shouted with a megaphone spell without waiting for Allegory to speak. "We are the wizards of Fairy Tale, everyone listen, these are the wizards of the Dark Guild Black Iron Forest, they are going to use the dark magic device Curse Flute to curse the presidents who are meeting nearby. It is very dangerous here, please leave here quickly, and notify the army and the presidents who are meeting nearby to come and help. What needs to be done now is not to start fighting immediately, but to evacuate the crowd first to prevent ordinary people from being affected by the battle, and to let the nearby police report what happened here quickly." He believes that with the strength of the presidents of the Wizard Guild, as long as they are not attacked without any defense, they should not be cursed by a magic item. Most of those who can become presidents have the strength of S-level wizards, and they are experienced and proficient in many kinds of magic. He even suspected that a large-scale curse like this might not work even if it was a sneak attack, otherwise it would not have been sealed so easily back then. The huge sound echoed in the city, and the ordinary people who were originally watching the excitement nearby were immediately scared and ran away. In just a few seconds, the streets were cleared. The Dark Wizard is a very scary existence in the eyes of ordinary people. Every year, many ordinary people die in the battles of Dark Wizards, and there are often reports in magic magazines. Looking for death. Seeing this, Allegory immediately swung the sickle in his hand, and a sharp wind blade flew out of the sickle and chopped directly towards George in the air. The cat in front of him was shouting, which had already alarmed the snake, so he naturally couldn't let it continue. George saw the green wind blade coming, and just as he wanted to dodge, he found that Urza had jumped in front of him, raised his hand and easily shattered the wind blade with a sword. "A bunch of flies, dare to ruin my good deeds, you stop them, I will curse those guild presidents." Knowing that Urza, the fairy queen, is not easy to mess with, Allegory is not stupid, and directly ordered hundreds of wizards in the guild to stop them together. He took the curse flute and flew up in the wind, wanting to fly to the villa in the north of the city first, and blow the curse before the guild presidents reacted. Kill. Hearing Allegory's order, those wizards launched their own magic like crazy, attacking Urza and others, and for a while they couldn't get away. Not good. Seeing that Allegory was so cowardly, turning around and running away without fighting, Urza and others didn't expect it. Fortunately, at this moment, George quietly took action. "You turned your back to me, so I won't be polite." George spread his wings and flew towards Allegory quickly, waving his magic wand. "Disarm you!" The red magic beam hit Allegory accurately, and the cursed flute and sickle in his hand were instantly forced out of his hands and flew out. Before he could catch them, George cast magic again. "Fly around!" The fallen cursed flute quickly flew into George's hands. "Damn, I was careless." Allegory took back his sickle, his eyes were about to pop out of his head. He never expected that he would be tricked by a cat. "Damn cat, give me the cursed flute back." Swinging several wind blades in a row, Allegory quickly chased George. George relied on his size advantage to dodge all the wind blades flexibly, and did not fight at all. The reason why his magic could hit Allegory just now was mainly because the opponent had no defense against him and was too careless. Otherwise, with the speed of the opponent's wind magic, it would be easy to dodge the attack. Unless he uses the Shadowless spell. But the Shadowless spell is his trump card. If he fails to kill the opponent once, the opponent will be alert if he uses it again. It is not wise to expose your trump card rashly without knowing the opponent's intelligence. The attack of the Shadowless spell has no signs, and it is difficult to detect and dodge, but it is not really without any flaws. As long as the enemy pays attention to the direction of his wand swinging, he can still dodge in advance. Only when he can cast the Shadowless spell without a wand and silently can it be said that there is really no flaw. "Good job, George, hide behind me, I will deal with him." Urza was overjoyed when she saw George grab the cursed flute. She waved her hand to turn the magic sword into a magic spear, and swept away more than a dozen wizards who blocked the way. George was not polite. With Urza, an S-level wizard, there, he naturally let Urza take over. He could be the sixth man in the back and take the opportunity to assist and make a sneak attack. Fall to the ground. A blue magic beam shot at Elijah, forcing him to slow down and dodge. He turned around and accelerated, hiding behind Urza, standing with Lucy and Happy. Okay, let me meet the Fairy Queen in person today. After dodging the attack, he found that Urza had already blocked George. Elijah knew that if he didn't kill Urza, it would be difficult to take back the cursed flute, and finally used his real strength. As the president of the Black Iron Forest and an S-class wizard, he was not really afraid of Urza. Storm Wave. A purple magic circle rose in Elijah's right hand, and a small tornado instantly formed and rolled towards Urza. A wind wizard. Faced with the sweeping tornado, Urza's face was not panicked at all. She activated the night magic, and a red magic circle suddenly lit up on her body. Armor of the Wind God. The original armor and spear on her body disappeared instantly, and then her body was wrapped in magic power, and she changed her appearance in the blink of an eye. At this time, Urza wore a pair of small wings on her head, tied up her long hair, and changed her armor into a tribal robe embroidered with wind and cloud spells. The spear in her hand also changed into a cloud-shaped long sword. Is this Urza's dress-up night magic? It is indeed different from ordinary dress-up magic. George, who was hiding behind, showed a hint of interest after seeing the whole dress-up process. Ordinary dress-up magic is to summon the magic weapons prepared in advance from the space opened up by oneself, and then fight with the magic weapons in close combat. For George, this does not seem to be much different from taking out the prepared weapons from the backpack expanded by the traceless extension spell behind him. At most, the speed is a little faster. But he has magnetic control, so he can't be that slow. But Urza's is different. In addition to magic weapons, magic armor can also be summoned instantly. The key is that the armor is put on directly after it is summoned, and even the hairstyle can be changed accordingly. If he takes out the armor from the backpack, then takes off his clothes and puts it on, it will take a minute or two, especially since armor is generally difficult to put on. Chapter 107 Star Spirit Magic. As a magician, George doesn't need close combat, but he still needs to be well protected. No matter which world he is in, it is very helpful to have a set of armor with high defense, which can be summoned at any time when encountering danger. And he thought about it, there are still some differences between opening up space by himself and using the traceless extension spell, each with its own advantages and disadvantages. The traceless extension spell can expand a large space, and can even open up a space as large as a city. It is not only for storing things, but also for animals and people. But the premise is that the medium for expansion must be carried with you at all times. If it is lost, the space will be lost. If the space is too large in the future, some things may not be as convenient to pick up as they are now. Even if you use the flying spell to summon, it will take some time to fly to the entrance if the space is too large. Another point is that the traceless extension spell can expand the space, but the premise is that there must be a certain amount of space. If you want to make a space storage ring with a solid ring, it is impossible to do it. Otherwise, Newt doesn't have to carry a box around, and he can directly get a ring, a bracelet, etc., and he is not afraid of being checked by customs. Even if you dig a hole in the ring, it is not very realistic. The traceless extension spell is to expand the original space. The larger the space, the easier it is to expand. The smaller the space, the more difficult it is to expand. If the entrance is too small, it is inconvenient to enter and exit. The disadvantage of the magic of the dress-changing night is that the size of the space depends entirely on one's own magic strength. Even for S-level Urza, the space is not so enough, and the space of ordinary wizards can only hold 1 or 2 weapons. It cannot store living things, only items without life characteristics. But the advantages are also obvious. It cannot be taken away by others, and the things inside can be summoned out for use at any time. If it is placed in the Harry Potter world, there is no fear of being discovered and convicted by the Ministry of Magic. After all, in the Harry Potter world, the traceless extension spell is not allowed to be used privately by individuals. It seems that I have to find time to learn this magic from Urza. I don't know if she is willing to teach. For ordinary dress-changing magic, there are magic books in the library that can be self-taught at any time, but Urza's dress-changing night magic, the library does not have relevant magic books. So cute! Lucy's eyes lit up when she saw Urza change into a dress with small wings on her head. Urza gave her the impression of a handsome and generous girl with leadership style. Suddenly she changed into such a cute dress. This contrast made her so cute. It's Urza's Wind God armor and Wind God sword. Now Allegory is in trouble. Happy pinched his waist, looking gloating. What are the Wind God armor and Wind God sword? Lucy asked George's doubts. Although Happy didn't have much strength, he grew up in the guild since he was born and knew the magic of every wizard in the guild. The Wind God armor is a set of armor that Urza prepared specifically to counter wind magicians. The power of wind magic hitting her will be at least half, and the Wind God sword in her hand is also a super powerful wind magic sword. Open it for me. After changing her clothes, Urza swung it fiercely at the incoming tornado, and violent wind magic burst out from the sword, and actually directly split the small tornado on the spot. After opening the tornado with a sword, Urza did not stop. She jumped in front of Allegory in a flash and began to violently attack at close range. Aragorn hurriedly used his sickle to resist, but it was obvious that his close combat skills were not as good as Urza's, and he was directly suppressed from the air to the ground by Urza. Every time he wanted to fly up to play the advantage in the air, he was ruthlessly suppressed. Everyone is working so hard, I can't fall behind. Seeing Urza suppressing Allegory here, Natsu and Grey blocking most of the wizards in the Black Iron Forest, George took back the cursed flute, and Lucy also gained confidence. She took out a golden key and chanted, "Open, the door of Cancer, Caesar." A blue magic circle rose, and a trendy man with a hair clipper and crab claws on his back walked out of the magic circle. Celestial magic, pass. For the celestial magic performed by Lucy, George was a little curious, but he didn't want to learn it. At least for the time being, he didn't think it was necessary to spend time on this magic. Celestial magic is not weak. If the summoned celestial spirit is strong enough, it can even win. But he has a purpose in learning magic, that is, he must give priority to learning those magics that can be used in various worlds. Magic like celestial magic, which summons celestial spirits to fight, is not useful in other worlds except in this world. Marvel and Harry Potter don't have celestial keys to collect, and there is no celestial world. Of course, it doesn't mean that there is nothing to learn from this kind of magic. On the contrary, the magic of the star spirits is very meaningful. If the essence of this magic is studied thoroughly, it will definitely be of great use in the future. It's a pity that with his current magic level, it is more appropriate to learn some life-saving magic first. It won't be too late to study this kind of magic when he becomes a real magician. Caesar, deal with them. Seeing several Black Iron Forest wizards bypassing Natsu and Grey and trying to come back to grab the cursed flute, Lucy waved her hand and issued an attack order to the summoned Cancer Star Spirit. Shrimp! The Cancer Star Spirit shouted a catchphrase and rushed towards the Black Iron Forest wizards. He was very fast. After a few rounds, he used the two sharp hair clippers in his hands to cut off the magic weapons of the Black Iron Forest wizards and shaved them into a kappa hairstyle. They are all trash. Seeing his men being defeated one after another, and his strongest defensive magic storm coat being chopped into pieces by Urza with the Wind God sword, Allegory knew that if he didn't go out with all his strength, today's plan would probably be ruined. However, what he didn't notice was that when George saw his storm coat being chopped into pieces by Urza, he had secretly circled behind him. Storm Smash! A large number of wind blades burst out instantly to temporarily repel Urza. Eligary quickly rose into the air, crossed his hands, and 6 purple magic circles lit up in succession around him. Go to hell, this is my strongest attack, Emerald Swift. Half of the magic power in his body was instantly emptied, and 6 storms drilled out of the magic circle, and then rotated and merged into a huge storm drill, drilling towards Urza. With this strike, even a mountain 100 meters high would be drilled with a big hole. Vajra armor. Experienced Urza did not panic at all and activated the night magic again. The wind god armor on her body was wrapped in extremely heavy blue and white diamond armor, and the wind god swords in both hands were replaced with 2 huge shields. Chapter 108 Katlaoliu and Number 039, S Sneak Attack. Diamond Barrier. The 2 huge shields merged, and the green magic barrier completely wrapped Urza. The storm drill that could penetrate the hill was completely blocked after encountering the diamond barrier, just like encountering an insurmountable fence, and its power was getting smaller and smaller. How can it be so strong? Seeing that his strongest attack did not seem to have the corresponding effect, Eligary gritted his teeth, and then his eyes turned and he had a new idea. After this battle, he already knew that he was not the opponent of the Fairy Queen. He had already tried his best, but the other party seemed very calm. If he continued to fight, he would definitely lose. But it didn't matter. His goal was not to defeat Urza, but to snatch back the curse flute and then go to the place where the president of the North City held a regular meeting to blow the curse sound. So as long as he trapped Urza for a moment, he could snatch back the curse flute from the ant-like kitten and fly away to continue his plan. Magic Wind Wall. Squeezing out most of the magic power in his body, he launched magic again at Urza. This is not an attack magic, nor a defense magic, but a trapping magic. Using the high-speed rotating storm to form a barrier to cover the enemy, even a wizard who is stronger than him will not be able to break it for a while once he is covered by this magic. However, just as he finished casting the magic wind wall, the magic power in his body was empty, and his mind was relaxed. A transparent sharp blade quickly attacked from the blind spot behind him. God's Edge without shadow. It was George, the 6th man, who took the opportunity to launch the God's Edge without shadow spell behind Eligary. Eligary is proficient in assassination, and his vigilance and intuition are very strong. Even at this moment, he still noticed something wrong. He wanted to activate the Storm Coat defense, but the magic power in his body had not recovered for a while because of the continuous release of the big move. He turned his head to see the source of the attack and dodge, but found that there was no attack at all. Before he could wonder what was going on, his head had separated from his body. I actually died at your hands. You little brat, let you go crazy. Seeing that Eligary was dead, George couldn't help but snort in his heart. A gentleman's revenge is never too late, but he is not a true gentleman, so he took revenge on the spot. As soon as Eligary died, the magic wind wall dissipated, and Urza changed back into the armor she wore every day and walked out. Looking at the headless body of Eligary on the ground, she sighed. You are a pretty good opponent, but it's a pity that you took the wrong path. Then she looked at George again, with an admiring look on her face. The magic just now was used very well. Roar of the Fire Dragon. Ice Shape, Lancer. At the same time, Natsu and Grey also released a large-scale attack magic, destroying all the Black Iron Forest wizards and ending their battle. On the other side, a large number of troops quickly rushed over after receiving the news of the masses' reports, and the presidents who were holding regular meetings also rushed over after hearing the news. However, when they arrived at the scene, in addition to the Black Iron Forest wizards who were knocked to the ground, there was also a large area of streets that had become ruins due to the magic battle. Although the entire city was not destroyed, there were basically few intact buildings left in the southern part of the city. It's okay, there's George, it can be repaired. Makarov kept panting and comforting himself. If he didn't know that George could slowly repair it, he would probably faint when he saw this scene now. It's a really good stick body. You can feel the huge magic power in it when you hold it in your hand. If it is made into a magic wand, it will definitely be a top-notch product. After killing Elagor, George carefully looked at the cursed flute in his hand and pulled out a knife from his backpack. He planned to cut a piece of wood from the cursed flute to make the stick body of the new magic wand before the kingdom army and the presidents arrived. If others asked about it at that time, he would say that it was slightly damaged in the chaotic battle just now. Anyway, he had snatched the cursed flute from Elagor, so it was his trophy. If the council insisted on taking it back, they would hand over the damaged cursed flute, which would be justified. But just as he was about to take action, the three-eyed skull carving on the head of the cursed flute suddenly emitted a strange purple light, and an evil voice came from the cursed flute. "It's ridiculous, they are all some useless wizards, forget it, I'll do it myself. I'll take the souls of all the humans in this city." A giant magic circle that could cover half of the city suddenly appeared above the cursed flute, and then George felt that the cursed flute in his hand disappeared. Then a 100-meter tall three-eyed demon slowly emerged from the magic circle and landed in front of everyone. The true form of this cursed flute is actually a demon. At this time, Urza, Natsu and others also came to George. George quietly put away his knife. He had never expected that the flute would turn into a demon. The key point was that this demon was too big and looked difficult to deal with. "Don't be afraid of this guy. For the glory of the kingdom, archers shoot and cavalry charge." The kingdom army, which had just arrived, saw the three-eyed demon appearing in the city and immediately sounded the charge horn. A large number of arrows flew towards the three-eyed demon, and densely packed heavy armored cavalry rushed along the street with spears. "Even ordinary humans dare to attack me, so I'll take your souls first." The sharp arrows hit the huge three-eyed demon, as if they were tickling him, unable to even break through his defenses. The three-eyed demon turned to look at the troops, opened his mouth, and blasted out a huge magic energy cannon. George made a visual inspection and found that the intensity of the magic energy emitted by the magic energy cannon was at least 10 times stronger than that of Eligor's ultimate move just now. If it hits the charging troops below, thousands of people may be evaporated in an instant. "No, Grey." When Urza saw those kingdom troops charging, she realized something was wrong. The strength of these three-eyed demons was quite strong, and it was not something that ordinary troops could deal with. So she reached out and picked up Grey and threw him away with all her strength. Under Urza's powerful power, Grey suddenly rushed into the middle of the three-eyed demon and the kingdom's army like a rocket. "Ice shape ice shield." A huge ice shield instantly formed in Grey's hands, which temporarily blocked the three-eyed demon's magical energy cannon. "Fire Dragon's Iron Fist." At this time, Natsu, whose right hand was wrapped in dragon-slaying flames, relied on the increase in flames to jump to a height of 100 meters, and hit the three-eyed demon hard in the face. The powerful force knocked the three-eyed demon staggering on the spot, and the magic energy cannon immediately stopped. "Change your outfit, Heavenly Wheel Armor." The most powerful Urza was not idle either. The armor on her body changed again, turning into a set of beautiful new armor with 4 steel wings like angels. Chapter 109 The True Strength of an S-Class Mage, 5th Update. I didn't realize that Urza is so talented, at least she's AD. Looking at Urza wearing the new armor, George couldn't help but sigh. The materials used for this heavenly armor are basically placed on the wings and lower body. The front of the upper body only barely covers the hemisphere, so it looks both sacred and seductive. Although he was surprised by the sudden change of the cursed flute into a three-eyed demon, he was not panicked. Because he found that the President Makarov and the presidents of other guilds had already rushed over. And they didn't look nervous at all when they stood there. Instead, they leisurely commented on the battle between the three-eyed demon and Urza and others. This phenomenon only shows one thing. Although this three-eyed demon is powerful, it should not be a big crisis for these presidents. Not to mention that most of these presidents are S-level, and there is also Makarov, the Holy Ten. The key point is that it's not that they can't recognize the cursed flute. Just now, one of the presidents was telling Lucy about the deeds of Zerev, the creator of the cursed flute. Knowing the characteristics of the cursed flute, he could still be so calm. George guessed that even if the cursed flute activated the curse-killing technique, it would not be able to cause any harm to these presidents. In other words, these presidents know how to break the curse of the cursed flute. Fly, swordsman. Urza, wearing the heavenly wheel armor, flew in the air, with dozens of magic swords spinning around her, turning into a crazy harvesting machine and killing the three-eyed demon. Is this the true strength of an S-class mage? Seeing that Urza, Natsu and Grey were actually suppressing the three-eyed troll and beating it, leaving holes everywhere in its huge body, George was slightly shocked. After working on it for a long time, none of the three of them used their full strength when fighting the Black Iron Forest Guild. Well, George, it's all up to you in a moment. Just when George was shocked by the strength of Urza and the three of them, Makarov rubbed his hands and walked up to George with a smile. George then came back to his senses and looked around, and found that the entire city was almost completely in ruins due to this battle. He couldn't help but twitch the whiskers at the corner of his mouth. Repairing such a large area would probably take quite a while even if he used the current super wand. President, are you going to tire the cat to death? Ha ha ha, what nonsense are you talking about? Take your time. We can take our time. We can work one day and take one day off. As long as we can repair the city in the end. Makarov stretched out two fingers and carefully pinched George's shoulders. His attitude was quite kind. George rolled his eyes and immediately replied with a smile. Since the president has said so, then as the wizard of the guild, I must be duty-bound. I don't have to work and take a day off. I will try to repair this city as quickly as possible. Kriba city is not a big city, and there are no high-rise buildings. The tallest house is only 5 floors. If you really work hard, it should be about the same in 3 to 5 days. If the wand's amplification effect could be better, then maybe it could be done in a day or two. However, I have something to ask the president for help with. No problem. Since I can help you speed up the repair process, it's just a small matter. I'll handle it later. Makarov assured, patting his chest. Compared to repairing the entire city, George's job is too simple. You guys, all of you, please die. Although the three-eyed demon's body was large and powerful enough, because the whole body was made of wood, his defense was obviously not very high. Under the siege of the three Urzas who cooperated tacitly, he soon became unable to withstand it. So he angrily used his own magic as the cursed flute. The art of killing with a curse. A purple magic circle rose above his head. As he took a deep breath, all the grass around the city withered, and then a huge amount of magic burst out instantly. Pfft! A sound like farting came from the body of the three-eyed demon. For a moment, everyone fell into silence. It seems, nothing happened. Lucy blinked next to her and murmured in disbelief. She thought the three-eyed demon's curse-killing technique was so powerful, but she didn't expect such a result. This cursed flute, created by the black mage Zerev, can unleash a powerful killing curse in a sneak attack. As long as they are within the range of the flute, basically ordinary people and low-level magicians will have their souls sucked away and killed instantly. If it is a slightly stronger magician, it can resist for a while. If this slightly stronger magician was more proficient in silent magic and enchantment, then this curse-killing technique would basically become a decoration. That's how it was sealed back then. The president of the Four-Headed Hound Magisters Guild explained. It turns out there is still this weakness. When George heard this, he immediately understood. No wonder these presidents were not worried. Silence magic is not a difficult magic. It is estimated that many of the presidents here should be proficient in it. Of course, even without the curse-killing technique, with the size of this three-eyed demon and its extremely destructive magic energy cannon, it is not something that ordinary people can defeat. Anyway, he doesn't have that strength now. So, he can't use the killing curse now because his body is full of holes, so he can't play the flute. After the explanation of the four hounds, Lucy also figured out why the three-eyed demon's curse didn't work. Ah, my voice, my beautiful voice. What a joke! After the three-eyed demon came back to his senses from the embarrassment, he immediately became angry and started to run away. His three eyes lit up at the same time, and the surging flames directly attacked everyone here. At this time, Natsu rushed to the front of everyone, opened his mouth and sucked, and all the flames were eaten into his stomach. It tastes good, all the magic power is replenished. It's time to end, ice-shape whirlwind flying disc. Gray exploded all his magic power, creating a large, high-speed rotating ice wheel, which shot towards the three-eyed demon, and actually cut the three-eyed demon's waist in half. Change clothes black feather armor. Iluza, who was in the air, also changed the skywheel armor to the black feather armor that could concentrate a blow to greatly increase the destructive power, and split the three-eyed demon's head with a sword as fast as lightning. The flames in my right hand and the flames in my left hand, combine the power of both flames. Take this one, Fire Dragon Brilliant Flame. When the three-eyed demon was severely injured by Urza and Gray, Natsu jumped high into the sky again, and with the power of the demon flames he had just swallowed, he burst out with the strongest attack. The huge giant flame hit the three-eyed demon in the air, and the violent explosion sounded through the sky. After the dust settled, the three-eyed demon completely disappeared, and turned into a cursed flute with a skull and fell to the ground. Chapter 110 The Ultimate Magic Wand, Update 1. We won! We won! Seeing the three-eyed demon being destroyed, Lucy and Happy hugged each other and cheered. The guild leaders also praised it. After all, it was a demon created by the Black Wizard Zeref. Normally, even if 3S class wizards worked together, it would not be so easy to destroy it. Makarov was also full of pride and relief when he saw the wizards of his guild being praised by everyone. But the next second, he heard George's voice full of resentment. President, if you can't get the cursed flute, I will consider changing guilds. The original Kruba city was just a ruin. Now due to Natsu's last blow, a big hole was directly blasted out of the city center, and it was obviously more troublesome to repair it. Leave it to me. Leave it to me. Makarov's body trembled when he heard George's words, and he immediately rushed to the front at a lightning speed and picked up the cursed flute before the arrival of the kingdom army. Then he looked around, broke off the skull on the cursed flute with great force, and quietly stuffed the remaining part into George's hand. Put it away quickly, don't let the people of the Kingdom Knights see it. Thank you, President. George took the cursed flute and immediately felt relieved, and happily stuffed it into his backpack. Before, he planned to take advantage of everyone's inattention and quietly cut off a small section of the cursed flute to make the shaft of the new magic wand. But after such a commotion, the kingdom army and the presidents of various places were there. Even if the three-eyed demon was defeated, he couldn't go forward to cut the cursed flute. So just now he told Makarov that he was making a magic prop that could greatly improve the efficiency of his repair magic, and he needed to cut off a part of the cursed flute as material, hoping that Makarov could help him. But he didn't expect Makarov to be so fierce, and he directly broke off the skull on the cursed flute and stuffed all the remaining flute shaft to him. This shaft must be the bigger the better he can make the magic wand. Well, you are the person in charge of the Kingdom Knights here, right? This is the cursed flute, which has been completely damaged and only this much is left. The people from the council will come over later, and you can help hand it over to them and ask them to seal it well. Also, tell them that we will send someone to repair the damaged city in 2 days, that's it. Holding the skull that was forcibly broken off, Makarov ran to the Kingdom Knights who were still in a daze, and stuffed the skull into the hands of the Legion leader. Without waiting for the other party to react, he quickly came back with Urza and others and disappeared in front of everyone. The council has teleportation magic, and it will be teleported soon after receiving the message. If you don't run now, you will be troubled when you meet it later. Makarov, this guy, is still the same. Looking at Makarov, who took the lead in running away, the four hounds and the president of the Blue Pegasus smiled at each other. They were also wizards of the Fairy Tale Guild and Makarov's best partners. Later, because of their own ideas and dreams, they left Fairy Tale and founded their own wizard guild. But the feelings for Fairy Tale Guild are still there. At night, in a forest on the way back to Magnolia City. George, your magic can actually be used like this, it's great, why don't you team up with us for missions in the future? Natsu gnawed on the golden roasted lamb leg and said to George, who was waving his wand to perform cooking magic in front of him. Because Elagor hijacked the train stopped running, and the rented magic car was damaged in the war, so the few people could only walk back to Magnolia City. Fortunately, George prepared kitchen utensils and some ingredients in his backpack just in case, so that they would not starve at night. Agree. Happy raised his paw while eating grilled fish. Forget it, I don't plan to team up for missions for the time being. George brought a bowl of freshly cooked broth to Natsu and took the opportunity to cut off a tuft of hair from the back of his head. As for the wand core, Natsu's hair is better. George, if you want, you can form a team to do the mission. Magic is still the fastest to improve in actual combat. At this time, Makarov suddenly said. For the benefit of the guild, it is best for George to stay in the guild as a firefighter, but he thinks that is not the best for George's magic improvement. In terms of the overall interests of the guild and the personal magic improvement of the wizards, he is more inclined to the latter, otherwise he would have constrained the guild wizards to perform tasks, instead of letting the guild wizards do it under the pressure of the council. I really don't want to do it for the time being. I want to read more books now and determine my own magic path. I will go out to form a team for the mission after I make a decision later. George made an excuse perfunctorily. In fact, it is not an excuse, because he originally planned to read all the magic books in the library and then go out to explore other places in this world. But to be honest, Makarov persuaded him to go to the team mission, which really surprised him. It can only be said that as a guild leader, Makarov is indeed a qualified guild leader. No wonder he is so loved by the guild wizards. 2 days later, George took the train that had resumed operation and came to Kroba City again. Kroba City is still a ruin, but the big hole in the middle of the ruins has been filled up, probably the work of an earth wizard. All the residents of the city have been moved to military tents outside the city for temporary residence. Are you George, the repair wizard of Fairy Tale? Urusha, the leader of the investigation team of the Council of the City of Kroba, looked at the golden kitten with a backpack in front of her, and her eyes narrowed. Ever since she learned that Fairy Tale said that there was a wizard who could repair the entire city, she took the initiative to take on the task of leading the team this time, wanting to secretly observe whether the other party was using the lost magic arc of time like herself. But she didn't expect that this repair wizard was not a human, but a cat. Yes, it's me. If there is no problem, I will start working. George nodded and replied. Hurry up and repair the city here, he still has to go back to continue studying magic. Since he saw the true strength of Urza, Natsu and Grey, he felt that he still had a lot of room for growth. Giant magic and light magic have already been introduced, and it is difficult to improve quickly, so he can only take it step by step. So next he can use Feng Yang's glasses to learn more other types of magic, complement each other to improve his overall strength. Of course, then please let Mr. George start. Ultia smiled and stepped back, and began to stare at George casting a spell. George didn't care, took out the new wand made of the cursed flute and Natsu's hair from his backpack, and began to cast a repair spell on the ruins in front. Thanks to the big guys for the subscription and monthly tickets, I will continue to update 5 times today, begging for more votes and subscriptions. Chapter 111, 3 Light Pillars, Second Update. As he expected, using the cursed flute as the wand's body did greatly increase the wand's ability to increase his magic. He would like to call the current wand a top-notch wand. The best wand can increase his magic by nearly 20 times. Restored to the original condition. With the blessing of the best magic wand, the effect of the repair spell was greatly improved, and the ruins in front of him began to gradually return to their once prosperous appearance, as if they were traveling back in time. Not afraid of running out of magic power, George kept waving the best magic wand, and the repair spells were thrown out one after another. From morning to night, I cast the spell for 10 hours, and I felt a little dizzy. Only then did the entire city of Kruba finally fully recover. Okay, my job is done. Withdrawing his wand, George said hello to Ulrusha and other council mages in a depressed manner, then went to the train station to take the train back to Magnolia City. Even if he doesn't run out of magic power, casting a spell for 10 consecutive hours is still very tiring. However, after this casting, he felt that his repair spell seemed to have made considerable progress. Strange, it's not the Arc of Time. This world really has repair magic. Watching George fly away, Auludiya had a puzzled look on her face. After a day of observation, she could confirm that George, the cat, was not casting the Arc of Time magic, but another type of magic that she had never seen before. If that's all it is, it's not something to be afraid of. This cat's magic can only repair things. It is an auxiliary magic and has no threat. You must know that her Arc of Time not only repairs this, but also has very powerful attack moves that can even stop time. I heard that Natsu will challenge Urza tomorrow, so you can go and have a look. After arriving at the station to buy a ticket and get on the return train, George squinted his eyes and fell into a state of sleep to restore his energy. How's it going, George? In the evening, as soon as he got off the bus from Magnolia Station, he met President Makarov, who was waiting for him at the station. Don't worry, President, everything has been restored to its original state. Ha ha ha, good job. Let's see if those guys from the council have any reason to trouble me this time. Hey, I'll go there in person in a few days and let them thank me properly. If our fairy tale wizards hadn't taken action this time, we don't know how far things would have gone. When Makarov heard George's affirmative answer, he puffed up his chest and laughed triumphantly. After he finished laughing, he patted George's shoulder again. George, I'll give you a big credit this time. Aren't you learning light magic? I created a very powerful light defense magic of my own, and I'll teach it to you when I have time. Light defensive magic. George's eyes suddenly lit up. The light magic he saw in the library was almost not very strong. If he didn't think that Makarov majored in light magic, there must be a special reason, and the effect of light magic is relatively sacred and has a restraining effect on dark magic. He would not have planned to continue to spend time studying it. Yes, it's called the 3 Pillars of God. It's my strongest defensive magic. Even the Holy Ten may not be able to break it. Makarov raised his head with pride on his face. When George heard this, he immediately said seriously, President, if you have such a task again in the future, please don't be polite to me. I like to repair things the most. It seems that Makarov also retained a lot of things when he taught himself giant magic and light magic, and many unique skills were not taught to him. Also, not long after he joined the guild, how could the president teach him all the secret tricks without reservation? That would be too stupid. If he could learn more powerful magic through this method in the future, he felt that even practicing for a few days would be nothing. The next day, on the cross street of Magnolia City, Urza and Natsu stood opposite each other, surrounded by fairy tale magicians and ordinary residents of Magnolia City. Natsu, come on! My queen, teach Natsu a lesson. Before the battle even started, everyone was already shouting. The Fairy Tale Guild has been in Magnolia City for so many years and has always gotten along very well with the locals, so the ordinary people in the city are not afraid of them at all, but like the magicians of the guild very much. When they heard that Fire Dragon Natsu was going to challenge the Fairy Queen, they all ran over to watch the fun. The bet has been placed, the bet has been placed, Natsu will pay 10 to 1 if he wins, and 10 to 1 if Urza wins. Kana, who loves to drink, took the opportunity to open a betting table, which provoked the guild wizards and ordinary people watching the fun to place their bets. Most of them bet on S-level Urza to win, but there are a few who plan to give it a try and win on Natsu. Natsu was still very young when he was defeated by Urza, but Natsu's growth in the past few years has been obvious to all, and it is not impossible to win. Who can win? At this time, George was also among the magicians. He did not place a bet, but he was still very interested in the outcome of the duel between the two. Logically speaking, the S-class Urza must be stronger, but Natsu's final blow against the three-eyed demon that day also left a deep impression on him. A big hole was opened in the whole city by that blow. Change your clothes, Emperor Yan's armor. Urza, holding a huge Vulcan sword, wearing red tight-fitting armor and twin tails, appeared in front of everyone. Emperor armor, this is an armor with fireproof properties, which can reduce the power of fire magic by half. Now Natsu is in trouble. Lucky Oliata, who used wooden modeling magic, adjusted her glasses and said. Everyone in Fairy Tale nodded, and Happy ran to Kana, wanting to change all her bets on Natsu to Urza, which was complained by Lucy. It is really difficult to deal with a wizard like Urza. George couldn't help but sigh in his heart. To deal with a wizard like Urza, unless you are far superior to her in hard power, you will be restrained by her various magic weapons and armor. Just like now, the effect of Natsu's fire magic is directly reduced by half. The game begins. With the shout of President Makarov, Urza and Natsu fought together. Because Urza's armor has fireproof properties, Natsu did not use fire to attack directly, but instead used all the flames of the dragon-slaying magic on his body to strengthen his body for close combat. The two sides fought back and forth, so fast that George couldn't keep up with his eyes, and it was hard to tell who was better for a while. Natsu, it seems that you have indeed made a lot of progress in these years, but the time is almost up, and it's time to end it. After dodging Natsu's fierce attack again, Urza showed a look of relief on her face, and her speed suddenly increased. She appeared behind Natsu before he could react, and knocked him out with a knife. Obviously, she didn't use her full strength in the previous battle, and now she has used her true strength. Chapter 112 Clues to the Dragon-Slaying Crystal, 3rd update. When I have time, I'll ask the President if he knows where I can find a dragon-slaying crystal. After watching the duel between Urza and Natsu, George was also slightly touched. Although Natsu was defeated in the end, the blessing of the dragon-slaying magic on the body that he showed still made him very excited. Urza is strong because she is strong by herself, and she also has the blessing of magic armor, while Natsu is strong because the blessing and power of dragon-slaying magic far exceeds that of ordinary magic. And he saw that even the Flame Emperor armor did not seem to have such a good suppression effect on the flame of dragon-slaying magic. Normal flame magic can only exert half of its power under the suppression of the Flame Emperor armor, but Natsu's dragon-slaying magic flame can exert at least 80% of its power. Considering that there are no magic armors and weapons in other worlds, he still prefers dragon-slaying magic. Especially, dragon-slaying magic can devour the corresponding elements to enhance strength. He thought that in the future, if he encounters a nuclear bomb attack, he can rely on dragon-slaying magic to swallow the energy of the nuclear bomb explosion and then fight back. Repair it as before. After repairing the damaged street with the repair spell, George and everyone returned to the guild. 3 days later, in the guild hall, George asked the President Makarov during lunch. President, I heard that your grandson Laxus became a dragon slayer by implanting the dragon crystal. Are you interested in the dragon crystal? Makarov showed a little surprise. George did not hide it and nodded directly. I am indeed interested in the dragon crystal. If I can get a piece of dragon crystal, I also want to become a dragon slayer. Hey, then George, aren't you going to become a chinchilla? Meow. At this time, the harpy on the other side heard George's words and couldn't help but complain. This guy likes to complain more than Lucy. George was stunned when he heard this, then smiled and replied. You are right. The dragon crystal, a crystal made from the heart of a dragon, is an extremely rare treasure. Ivan heard about Serena from me back then. For Laxus's body, he searched the entire Ishgar continent but couldn't find the dragon crystal. I remember that I finally bought a thunder dragon crystal from a wizard from the Kiltana continent. So I advise you not to have too much hope. Makarov finished the wine in his hand, then shook his head and persuaded. The existence of dragons has long become a legend. Even if there are, they are extremely rare, not to mention finding them, defeating and killing them, and using their hearts to make dragon-killing crystals. A wizard from the Kiltana continent. George began to recall the magic book he had read about the geography of this world. This world is called Aslant. There are currently 4 known continents, the East Continent, the West Continent, the South Continent, and the North Continent. In the Eastern Continent of Ishgar, there are more than 500 wizard guilds and several kingdoms, and the Kingdom of Fiori is just one of them. In the Western Continent of Alakadasia, it is said that there is a unified empire there, but it has no intersection with the Eastern Continent. The two sides are basically isolated from each other, and news and books and letters cannot be circulated. However, occasionally there are immigrants from the Western Continent who come to Ishgar to find job opportunities. The wizards of their guild, Biska and Grammy, are both from the Western Continent. The Southern Continent is unknown. It is only known that there is such a continent in the south, but no wizard has found it, and maybe it does not exist at all. Kiltana in the Northern Continent seems to be related to some century-old mission, and there is no specific introduction in the book. Who is Serena? George did not ask about the details of Ivan buying the dragon crystal, but changed the subject. Because he knew from Myra Jane that Ivan, as Makarov's son, was kicked out of the guild by Makarov for some reason, which also caused Laxus to have a problem with Makarov, his grandfather. Mentioning Ivan now will obviously bring back Makarov's bad memories. Anyway, there are already clues about the dragon crystal. When he becomes stronger in the future, he can go to Ivan himself to ask in detail, or go directly to the Northern Continent to see if he can find relevant clues. Serena, also known as God Serena, is a wizard standing at the top of the Holy Ten, the leader of the 4 heavenly kings of Ishgar. He has 8 dragon crystals fused in his body and can use 8 kinds of dragon-killing magic. But he suddenly disappeared many years ago, and I haven't heard about him for a long time. Makarov replied with some sighs. George's eyes widened when he heard it. 8 dragon crystals. He didn't expect that this dragon crystal could not only fuse one, but also fuse so many at the same time, which made him more interested in the dragon crystal. Since 8 pieces can be fused, does that mean that 18 pieces can be fused? If he can get all the dragon crystals of different attributes and fuse them into his body, wouldn't any attribute magic he cast be dragon-killing magic, and all attribute magic can be swallowed into his stomach? Just thinking about it makes me a little excited. What's going on? I'm so sleepy. Just when George was thinking about how to get so many dragon crystals, he suddenly felt sleepy, and then his psychic power burst out instantly, driving away this abnormal sleepiness. But then he saw that the wizards of the guild fell down one by one, including the S-class wizard Urza. It's sleep magic. Is there an enemy invading the guild? George instantly spread his wings, pulled out the top-grade magic wand behind him, and pointed it at Urza at the first time. Curse! The strongest person in the guild is the President Makarov, but at this time, the President opened his eyes and obviously resisted the influence of the sleep magic by himself, so he had to remove the magic effect for Urza, who was second only to the President. Then he removed the magic effect for Natsu, Grey, and others one by one. However, at this moment, the President stopped him. George, don't be nervous, it's not the enemy, it's Mr. Gang. He doesn't like dealing with people, so he used sleep magic to stun everyone. S-class wizard Mr. Gang. George was shocked. He had heard the gossip of the wizards in the guild. Now everyone recognized that the strongest female wizard in the guild was Urza, but everyone had their own opinions on the strongest male wizard in the guild. Some said it was Laxus, and some said it was Mr. Gang, both of whom were S-class wizards. Oh, there is also an S-class wizard named Gildarts Cleaver, who is recognized as the strongest wizard in fairy tale. It is said that this uncle took the most terrifying 100-year mission in the wizard legend and has not returned to the guild for several years. So everyone did not put him on the list of candidates for the strongest male wizard. Natsu and Gray have greatly improved their strength in recent years. In everyone's eyes, they can barely make the list. Chapter 113. Are you interested in being my cat? Fourth update. As soon as Makarov finished speaking, a mage wearing a mask, a hood, and carrying 5 wands pushed open the door and walked into the guild. There are also magic wands in this world, but unlike George's magic wand, the magic wands in this world are more like magic props. Each wand can release 1 or 2 types of magic, and are generally used by wizards with magic skills. George's wand cannot release any specific magic, but it can amplify all the magic he uses and speed up the magic. In the later stage, as long as he is proficient in magic and swings the wand fast enough, he can gnaw a big melon and shoot it like a machine gun. After Mr. Gang entered the guild, he didn't say anything. He walked directly to the second floor, selected a mission, and left the guild silently. This guy's social phobia is definitely advanced. Seeing Mr. Gang disappearing at the door and everyone waking up, George couldn't help but sigh. This kind of character is really rare in the fairy tale guild. I'm going to read a book. The information about the dragon crystal has been learned from the president. After lunch, George said hello to everyone and planned to continue going to the library to study magic. That cat down there, you are very nice. Are you interested in being my cat? But just as George spread his wings, a somewhat arrogant voice suddenly came from the second floor. George looked up and saw that a wizard with blonde hair, a coat, and a lightning scar on his face had appeared on the second floor at some point. I heard that you can use repair magic, and you were able to resist the sleep magic of Mist Gun just now. It's very good. You are qualified to be my cat. Laxus. Everyone screamed in surprise when they saw Laxus appearing on the second floor. And George also knew the identity of the magician on the second floor. He was the grandson of the president mentioned before, the Thunder Dragon Slayer magician who was integrated into the Dragon Crystal, and Laxa, an S-class magician. Saint Dolia. This guy is very arrogant. Hearing Lacasa's words, George shook his beard and refused directly. Not interested. At this stage, he is studying magic to improve his strength. There is no point in following Laxus out. Besides, if he wants to form a team, he will choose Urza, Lucy, and Rebby. At least the mission process is more eye-catching. Personal, I like it. Laxus was not angry when he heard George's refusal, but showed an expression of appreciation. You will always have to go out to do missions in the future. Instead of teaming up with this group of losers below, you might as well follow me, so that your strength will increase faster. Isn't it that you stay in the library every day to study magic to improve your strength faster? He wants to replace his grandfather as the guild leader of Fairy Tale. George, the cat who can repair magic, is very important to the guild. If you can win over them in advance, that would be great. Laxus, who do you think is a loser? I want to fight you. When Natsu heard what Laxus said, he immediately burst into anger, but Laxus had a look of disdain on his face. You can't even deal with someone like Urza, and you still want to duel with me. What did you say? Urza frowned and immediately had a magic sword in her hand. Although she had never fought before, she did not consider Laxus to be her opponent. Don't be impulsive, Urza, Laxus has always been like this, don't be angry. Seeing that the queen was angry and worried that the two would really fight, Gray, Lebby and others immediately stepped forward to persuade her. Fortunately, Urza always focused on the overall situation and finally put away the magic sword. But Laxus is still arrogant. Don't you understand? I am the strongest in the guild. What? I won't admit it, let's have a showdown. Natsu stepped on the table and jumped hard, wanting to jump to the second floor to compete with Laxus, but as soon as he jumped halfway, he was slapped down by the president's huge slap. You are not allowed to go to the second floor if you have not reached S level. Ha ha ha, you must have been scolded by the old man. When Laxus saw Natsu being pinned to the ground and unable to get up, he immediately laughed proudly. I will not give up the throne of being the strongest at Fairy Tale. Whether it is Urza or Mistgun, I am the strongest. Okay, Laxus, please restrain yourself. Makarov cursed helplessly. Laxus snorted and jumped off the second floor and left. But before leaving, he left a message to George. Your color matches me very well, and you will definitely be my cat in the future. Maybe if you bring me a dragon crystal, I might consider it. This was the reply given by George. If Laxus can really find a dragon crystal, or if he has relevant information, then it's not impossible to team up with Laxus. The next day, something big happened to the guild. Last night, in order to prove his strength, Natsu asked Happy to secretly go to the second floor to get an S-level mission sheet, and then kidnapped Lucy to do the S-level mission together. Makarov was very angry about this and sent Grey to recover the two men and the cat. George did not ask anything about this matter. It was not something he should waste time asking about. His main task now was to learn more magic and improve his strength. Meanwhile, the Marvel Universe. Nick Fury handed the analysis and investigation report to Coulson and Black Widow, who were standing in front, and asked after they read. What do you think? Our memory must have been manipulated. Coulson and Black Widow's answers were surprisingly consistent. As top agents who have received various professional training, they can obviously find that many details investigated in the report do not match their memories. Since they did not lie, it means that there is something wrong with their memory. This is not something difficult to understand. Let alone those mental superpowers, some organizations can achieve similar effects by hypnotizing and brainwashing through high-tech equipment. Are there any suspected targets? Nick Fury sat back in his chair and asked. Coulson thought for a while. Yes, that George. When the battle took place, only Tony's female assistant Pepper Potts and his bodyguard George were around, plus George's temperament and unrecognizable identity. He had reason to suspect that it was George who tampered with his memory. What about you? Nick Fury was not surprised and turned his head to look at Black Widow. Black Widow frowned. I don't have any suspects here. Everyone who came into contact with her at that time is dead. Before going to the base of Acre Genetics, her memory should be fine, because all kinds of surveillance and the memories of her colleagues can confirm it. After entering the base, Dr. Rice and all the guards in the base have now become charred corpses, so it is impossible that they are the ones who changed her memory. Do you suspect that the same person or the same force modified our memory? The director called her and Coulson over to question them at the same time, and they still had the same symptoms. It was obvious that he had discovered something. Chapter 114, Spell Boundary, 5th Update. Nick Fury did not hide anything and nodded directly. Yes, our people found some remaining bullet casings with the Stark Group logo when they were dealing with the Yakles gene base. So I suspect that the person who rescued Tony Stark from the Ten Rings, modified your memories, and burned down the entire Yockley Gene Company base was this George who couldn't find any information. Or maybe it's a mysterious organization that we don't know about that George belongs to. Director, haven't you found his information yet? Coulson had a look of surprise on his face. It would be understandable if no information about George had been found in the database before, but during this period of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s multi-party investigation, it was unbelievable that no information about George had been found. With S.H.I.E.L.D.'s ability, if you want to check it out, you can definitely find it out even if you change dozens of fake identities. No, this guy just appeared out of nowhere without any clues. I went to see Tony Stark last night and couldn't get any information about him. Nick Fury looked a little serious. So next, you should stop all tasks in hand and fully cooperate with the memory recovery treatment. An organization suddenly appeared that was completely beyond his control and understanding, and it also had extraordinary strength and could modify memories. He absolutely couldn't just let it go. He must figure out the other party's origin and purpose of getting close to Tony Stark as soon as possible. Half a month later, after various black technologies and the assistance of professional psychologists and hypnosis masters, Coulson and Black Widow finally found some forgotten memories in their minds. It turns out that he is a mutant created by Yockley Gene Company. No wonder we can't find any information about him. Combining the descriptions of Coulson and Black Widow, as well as the relevant intelligence about the Yockley Gene Company that S.H.I.E.L.D. had previously collected, Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., roughly figured everything out. George was a mutant created by the Yockley Gene Company, but later escaped from control. He also escaped from the base with a group of small mutants and found Wolverine, who had disappeared for many years. With the help of Wolverine, they escaped to New York, and then went to Afghanistan to rescue Tony Stark. With the help of Tony Stark, they destroyed the entire Acrogene base. Of course, many of the details are still unclear, such as how George and others found Tony Stark in Afghanistan. But that's probably the general picture. When it comes to mutants and superpowers, many things cannot be inferred using common sense. Coulson, next you will continue to be responsible for Tony Stark and evaluate his Avengers qualifications. In the director's office, Nick Fury looked at Black Widow after announcing the mission to Coulson. Your mission is to find out where the mutants George and Wolverine are hiding in New York as soon as possible. We can't let a group of mutants with superpowers roam freely. He originally wanted to send Black Widow to take charge of Tony Stark, but Tony Stark had probably already met Black Widow, and sending Black Widow there would cause resentment. It would be better to replace him with Coulson, who has a better personality. They happen to have established a good relationship before. As for the mutants George and Wolverine, although it doesn't seem to have much impact at the moment, such uncertain factors must be placed within the scope that he can control and monitor. Otherwise, if any unexpected situation occurs, he will not be able to control the overall situation and handle it in the best possible way in a timely manner. On the other side, in the mutant school, Wolverine smoked a big cigar and watched George reaching out and writing very weird symbols on the wall of the school. He couldn't help but asked curiously, "What are you doing?" "Deploy a magical barrier." George continued painting without looking back. Wolverine looked confused. "What is a magical barrier?" "You don't understand even if you tell me, you just think it's a special ability to prevent foreign enemies from invading the school. History class is about to begin, why don't you hurry over?" George waved his hand perfunctorily, and Wolverine didn't care. He put out his cigar and ran off to teach the children. Because of his previous experience, Wolverine now likes to stay in school and give history lessons to children. Without Wolverine to bother him, George deployed the magic barrier a little faster. Lebby's word magic was one of the main magic he learned during this period. Compared with other magics that basically require self-study, with text magic he can find regular guidance from Lebby, who he has a good relationship with. Unlike other magicians, Lebby often goes out on missions and is not seen once every 10 days and a half. She is basically the same as George. She spends a lot of time reading books in the library to accumulate magical knowledge. So George can ask her for advice every day. The difficulty of learning key text magic lies in the accumulation of magic knowledge. George has never slacked off in this aspect since joining Fairy Tail, making it easier to get started. Unlike the costume-changing magic, after returning from the mission in Kruba City, even though Urza often asked for advice, she never got started. However, during this period of time when he was learning word magic with Lebby, his focus was not on the three-dimensional characters in word magic, but on the spell words. Text magic is mainly divided into three categories: three-dimensional text, magic text, dark text, and demonic text. Usually, what you can learn in the library is about three-dimensional characters and magical characters. Dark characters and demonic characters are forbidden magic, and you can't find related magic books in the library. Among them, three-dimensional text mainly fights by making the text appear three-dimensionally. For example, writing fire will embody a fire attack, writing wind will embody a Chinese-style attack, and writing mute will cause the surrounding area to be muted. But precisely because there are so many types of effects displayed, it is more difficult to improve the power of each embodiment. Even after Lebby has studied it for so many years, it is still only at a medium level. George also felt that many of the magical effects could be replaced by spells from the Harbin family of magic. Therefore, he prefers to focus on the technical writing first, and he can learn the basics of three-dimensional writing first. Technological text is different from three-dimensional text. It is basically difficult to use it immediately in battle, but the effect is very good. It is a magic spell that can be written with rules on the surface of any object or space. Once completed, the spell will form an invisible barrier. If someone steps into the scope of the spell, the rules will automatically take effect, and it is difficult to break through with brute force. Only those who meet the rules of the spell can enter and exit. However, because the writing of the text is very strict, once there is a mistake or rewriting, the original rules will be invalidated or rewritten into a spell that is beneficial to the opponent. Chapter 115, The Attack of the Basilisk, Update 1. What George is writing for the school now is the most basic spell text barrier. The rule he set is that only mutants can enter and exit the barrier, and non-mutants cannot enter and exit the barrier freely. Because it is the simplest spell barrier, the protection is not so strong, but it is not a big problem to stop ordinary people. He was not a professional spy or agent in his previous life. There must be many loopholes in the previous handling. Ordinary people may not find it, but professional agents and spy organizations such as S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra will definitely notice it. It is only a matter of time to find the mutant school by following the clues. Although he has covered the entire school with the Muggle shielding spell, it is not certain that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra have any black technology equipment. The Muggles in the Harry Potter world cannot find Diagon Alley because the technology level is not high, but the Marvel world has all kinds of black technology, and it may not be impossible to crack the Muggle shielding spell. If the Muggle shielding spell is cracked at that time, this basic spell barrier can stop all agents and spies who want to sneak into the school, buying time for everyone to respond. In fact, the amplification effect of his wand in this world is not very good. Because Phoenix Girl's hair is a clone, it is not blessed by the power of the Phoenix, and the new wand made is not much stronger than the one made with the professor's hair before. So the traceless extension spell he cast in the Marvel world is far inferior to the fairy tale world and the Harry Potter world. Otherwise, he could consider directly moving the entire school to a space expanded by the traceless extension spell, which would be much safer. It is still safe now. Ordinary people can't see the school, and even if they can see it, they can't break in. If the barrier is forcibly blown up with weapons, Wolverine and Professor X are not vegetarians. After Professor X replaced his young body, his mental ability fell from level 4 to level 3, but even a level 3 professor could make all the agents and spies who broke into the school blank. Done. Because he had just started to learn text magic, he was busy until the evening, and George finally arranged the spell barrier covering the entire school. We still have to find a more suitable wand core. The hair of the Phoenix Girl is not very effective, and the dragon crystal in the fairy tale world is not so easy to obtain. He still needs to try more in other aspects. Why not try the hair of the Hulk, or the hair of Thor, or the hair of Loki? After all, Thor and Loki are also gods, and the hair effect should not be bad. George thought secretly on the way back to the dormitory. If Odin is willing to give me a hair, and I can get the Uru metal and the branches of the world tree, maybe I can make a better wand than the fairy tale world. But after thinking about it carefully, even if there is such a consideration, it is estimated that it will take a few months before there is a chance. Now the Hulk has not come to New York, and Thor and Loki are still in the god's domain Asgard. Forget it, let's study magic more first. The Hulk is easy to say, but Loki and the Destroyer are not easy to deal with. If you want to take the opportunity to get what he wants, you can't do it without enough strength. Now that the school has a spell barrier, he plans to ignore everything outside the window for a while and put all his energy into studying fairy tale and Harry Potter world magic. Strive to improve his strength to a higher level in these few months. More than a month later, in the Harry Potter world, it was already May. During this period, apart from playing a Quidditch game with Hufflepuff, winning with an absolute advantage once again proved his Quidditch talent, nothing else happened. Until the day when Gryffindor and Ravenclaw were going to play Quidditch. Like every Saturday, George finished breakfast early and went to the library. Recently he was studying the explosion curse, which is a very destructive evil curse that can explode everything it touches and has a very high risk factor. As far as he knows, Peter Pettigrew once used this spell to blow up an entire street, killing 12 muggles. Hermione, why are you in such a hurry? Why didn't you go to the game? Seeing Hermione appear at the door of the library panting, George showed a little surprise. There is a Quidditch match today. The teachers and students of the school are all going to the Quidditch field. In the library, except for Madame Pants, he is the only one reading a book. Although Hermione also likes to come to the library to read books, today is related to Gryffindor's Quidditch match, she can't help but go to cheer for Harry. George, it's great that you are here. I think I know what the monster in the Chamber of Secrets is. Can you help me find a book about dangerous magical animals? After Hermione recovered a little, she excitedly stepped forward and grabbed George's hand. George was stunned when he heard it, and then nodded. Of course, no problem. While helping Hermione find a book, he thought to himself. Could it be today? He knew that in the original book, Hermione was attacked by the basilisk after finding the clues of the Chamber of Secrets, but he had no impression of the specific day of the attack. Is it this one? After searching for a while, George handed Hermione a very old magic book that introduced the basilisk. After Hermione got the magic book, she said excitedly. It's this fantastic beasts, let me find it. She pulled George to the reading area and opened Fantastic Beasts. She soon found the page about the basilisk and read it to George. In our country, there are many terrible beasts and monsters wandering around. The most bizarre and lethal of them is the basilisk, also known as the Snake King. This snake can grow to a very large size and usually lives for hundreds of years. It is hatched from a rooster egg and a toad. The basilisk kills people in an amazing way. In addition to its deadly fangs, its stare can also kill people. Anyone who is stared at by its eyes will die immediately. Spiders will run away when they see the basilisk, because the basilisk is the spider's mortal enemy, and the basilisk will flee in panic as long as it hears the crowing of a rooster, because the crowing of a rooster is also fatal to it. So, you suspect that the monster in the secret room is a basilisk. After hearing Hermione finish reading, George asked in a low voice. Hermione nodded. Yes, I suspect the monster in the Chamber of Secrets is the basilisk. It moves through the pipes of the school. Myrtle must have died because she saw the eyes of the basilisk. And in these attacks, Mrs. Norris saw the eyes of the basilisk through the reflection of the water surface, so she was only petrified and not killed. Colin was killed because the camera did not see it directly, and Headless Nick was already dead. It makes sense, maybe we should report this to Dumbledore. George looked like he fully agreed with Hermione's reasoning, and asked casually. By the way, what about Harry's diary? Are there any new clues recently? You mean Riddle's diary? I don't know who stole it yesterday, and just before coming to the library, Harry said he heard a strange sound again. I suspect it was the sound of the basilisk. Because Harry is a snake speaker, so he can always hear it. Hermione pulled George up. Let's find Dumbledore now. Since the basilisk has appeared again, everyone is in danger. Go, keep working hard. Chapter 116 George falls from the sky, second update. You should be the one being attacked. George thought to himself as Hermione pulled him out of the library. Now that most of the young wizards in the school have gone to the Quidditch pitch, only he, Hermione and a few young wizards are still in the school. The basilisk will definitely attack Hermione, a Muggle-born wizard first. Especially to Voldemort, Hermione was also a good friend of Harry's. But George was not worried about this. He originally wanted to lure the basilisk to show up, clear Hagrid's grievances, and temporarily send Dumbledore away from the school. Now is a good opportunity. Coming. Not long after walking out of the library, George sensed the presence of the basilisk at a corner. His psychic ability is not as powerful as the professor's, but he can still sense an area around him. The hostility of the basilisk is simply too obvious. George, something seems wrong. After walking a few steps, Hermione suddenly stopped and said with a trembling voice. Because she faintly heard the sound of the basilisk moving towards this side from behind. Don't look back, it might be a basilisk, once you see its eyes you're dead. Listen to me and keep moving forward. George took Hermione's trembling hand and walked quickly towards the stairs. As George and Hermione moved faster, the basilisk seemed to be aware of it and accelerated towards them. Hearing the sound getting closer and closer from behind, Hermione's legs were already a little weak, but as a little wizard of Gryffindor, she was indeed brave enough to actually say to George. George, go find Dumbledore and tell him about the basilisk, and I'll hold it back. As she said this, she actually pulled out her wand. But George grabbed Hermione's waist and took out his wand. Believe me, we can escape. Close your eyes and don't look into the eyes of the basilisk. Feeling the breath of the basilisk approaching behind him, George instantly activated his wing magic, grew a pair of white wings, hugged Hermione and flew up, just in time to avoid the basilisk's bloody mouth. At the same time, he waved his magic wand downward. The divine edge is shadowless. A transparent sharp blade flew out of the wand and hit the head of the snake that the basilisk was about to lift. The basilisk's magical defense was astonishing. The divine edge shadowless curse did not break the defense, but it still caused it to suffer pain and lower its huge snake head. George took the opportunity to accelerate and continued flying towards the stairs. At this time, Hermione was suddenly taken flying, so she hugged George subconsciously, buried her head in his chest and exclaimed. George, can you fly? Now is not the time to talk about this. George kept flapping his wings to speed up, and the basilisk was chasing after him. In fact, the current situation is all under his control, because his flying speed has not increased to the limit at all, mainly because he is afraid that the basilisk will not be able to catch up and give up. Even when he saw that the distance was far away, he would deliberately slow down his flying speed. If the basilisk had a tendency to give up, he would wave his wand and throw a shadowless curse behind him to continue to irritate the opponent. Today we must at least make a big noise, not only to let the teachers and students of the school see it, but also to at least let the characters in the oil paintings at the top of the stairs see the basilisk, so that it can be convincing enough. Otherwise, he and Hermione would have nothing to prove, and they would not be able to prove that theirs was a basilisk and not an acromantula. Oh my god, what is that? It's so scary, hide now. Poor little wizard, run away. Finally, with George's constant seduction, the basilisk was led to the 142 staircases that moved at any time in Hogwarts, and was also seen by all the characters in the oil paintings on the wall. Seeing that his goal had been achieved, George directly carried Hermione and flew up the stairs. However, the basilisk could not go up through the moving stairs. It could only make an angry hissing sound, turn around and get into the nearby water pipe. Dumbledore should be over there on the Quidditch pitch, let's go straight there. After getting rid of the basilisk, George did not stay, flew to the 8th floor to find a window, and flew out of the window with Hermione. Now as long as he finds Dumbledore and explains the situation, everything will be settled. As for the flying magic he displayed, it was of course his own magic created by one of the most talented people in the world. Snape was able to create his own magic spells such as the Shadowless Edge Curse and the Upside-Down Golden Hook Curse when he was a student. Even though he was reluctant to create flying magic, it was not unreasonable. Who made him George? In everyone's eyes, he has always been so outstanding. The continuous creation of genius characters in the past is also to pave the way for what is happening now. Although he is only in the first grade now, geniuses are always irrational, right? When George was thinking about what to say when he arrived at the Quidditch pitch, he didn't notice that Hermione, who was holding him at the moment, looked at him with something different in her eyes. Hey, today is the fourth game of the Quidditch match, Gryffindor vs Ravenclaw, let's have a treat next. Oh, Merlin's trousers, what did I see? In the stands, commentator Jordan was preparing to announce the entrance of the Quidditch players from both sides, cheered by the little wizards in the school. Suddenly, he saw George with a pair of white wings flapping, holding Hermione in his arms, appearing above the stadium, and his whole body was stunned. Of course, he was not the only one who was stunned, but all the little wizards in the school were stunned. There! George came to the sky above the Quidditch field, glanced to find Dumbledore sitting in the professor's stand, and flew directly over. George, what are you doing? Seeing George fold his wings and put Hermione down, Snape was the first to react and stood up. George did not drag his feet and went straight to the point. Dean, Principal, Hermione and I were attacked by a basilisk near the library just now. After listening to George and Hermione's narration, all the professors took a breath. Dumbledore's expression showed a trace of surprise. It was not known whether he was surprised that the monster in the secret room was a basilisk, or that George and Hermione actually escaped from the pursuit of the basilisk. In fact, George had never known whether Dumbledore knew about the basilisk. He guessed that he knew, but whether he really knew, only Dumbledore himself knew. Minerva, inform all students that the Quidditch match is cancelled. All students should stay here on the field and return to the common room after we have inspected the school. Professor McGonagall nodded solemnly, and then loudly conveyed Dumbledore's order with a loudspeaker spell. You did a good job. Slytherin and Gryffindor will each get 20 points. Dumbledore nodded kindly to George and Hermione, and then took Snape, Flitwick and other professors to the castle, while Professor McGonagall stayed on the Quidditch field to maintain order. Chapter 117 The Genius Who Creates Magic, Third Update. The Quidditch match was suddenly stopped, and Dumbledore led the professors out of the field in a hurry. This was obviously a big event. The little wizards all speculated that it must have something to do with George and Hermione falling from the sky, but because Professor McGonagall was blocking them there, they could not go over and question them directly. If Professor McGonagall hadn't stopped them, the two of them would have been made into dumplings by the curious little wizards. But despite this, all kinds of speculations are flying. Of course, the most talked about topic is why George can conjure wings and fly. Has he learned some new magic or does he have the blood of a bird wizard? It took a full 2 hours before Professor McGonagall asked the prefects of each major college to lead the young wizards back to the castle's common room one by one. It turned out that Dumbledore and others did not find the basilisk in the castle, but they did find the traces left by the basilisk attack and the confessions of the characters in the oil paintings, and thought that the basilisk might have been hidden in the secret room. George, Hermione, come with me. After all the little wizards returned to the common room, George and Hermione were taken alone by Professor McGonagall to Dumbledore's principal's office. Do you want to tell me about Harry and the diary later? Hermione asked quietly on the way to the headmaster's office. Harry could hear the basilisk's whispers and the things about Reed in the diary. These were Harry's secrets. Harry didn't want to tell the teacher about them for the time being, so Hermione was also very confused now. Just now, George only said that they were attacked by a basilisk and did not tell Harry's secret. She didn't know if she should confess when the principal asked later. George thought for a moment and whispered in Hermione's ear. "Don't talk about it yet, go back and discuss it with Harry and see what he thinks. Anyway, now as long as it is proven that the monster in the Chamber of Secrets is a basilisk and not a spider, Hagrid will not be considered the descendant of the Chamber of Secrets and Myrtle's murderer." He was afraid of telling everything. If these professors followed the clues and found the entrance to the secret room, and if they found the basilisk in advance, his plan would be ruined. He didn't need Dumbledore to leave the school for a long time like in the original book. Even if he only left for a day, he could go to the Forbidden Book area and write down all the powerful black magic. "Okay, I understand." Hermione nodded. She also felt that this kind of thing still needed Harry's consent before she could say it. Lemon ice cream. In front of a huge and ugly stone monster on the 8th floor, as Professor McGonagall read the password, the monster suddenly came to life, jumped to the side, and the wall behind it cracked in half. Behind the wall was a spiral staircase that was moving slowly upward, like an escalator. "Follow me." George and Hermione followed Professor McGonagall up the spiral staircase, which spiraled rapidly upwards and soon stopped in front of an oak door with a griffin-shaped brass door knocker. Pushing open the shiny oak door, Dumbledore's principal's office appeared in front of George's eyes. It was a large, beautiful round room filled with all kinds of funny little sounds. On the table with slender legs, there were many strange silverwares placed, spinning and spitting out small puffs of smoke. The walls are covered with portraits of old principals, both men and women, snoring gently in their respective frames. There is also a huge table in the room with claw-shaped legs. Above the table, on a high gilded perch, stands a beautiful bird with golden tail feathers. Obviously, that was Dumbledore's pet fox, the only phoenix in the world that could rise from the ashes and never die. On a shelf behind the desk, there was a tattered, wrinkled wizard's hat, which was the sorting hat he had used when he entered school. This is not the first time he has come to the principal's office. The last time he signed a contract to join the England Quidditch team was also in the principal's office and a group photo was taken. At this time, Dumbledore and Snape were standing in front of the table talking. No other professors were seen. They were probably spread around the castle to prevent the basilisk from appearing again. "Headmaster, George, and Miss Granger have brought it." McGonagall's voice interrupted the discussion between the two, and they turned to look at George and Hermione at the same time. "Okay, everyone, sit down. George and Miss Granger, can you tell us more about the encounter with the basilisk?" With a gentle tone, Dumbledore asked everyone to sit on the sofa in the narrator's office, and asked the house elf to bring 2 glasses of juice to George and Hermione. George took the juice and calmly began to tell what happened. He didn't say that Hermione found clues about the basilisk and came to the library to look for books. He just said that Hermione came to him to watch Quidditch, and then the two of them left the library and encountered a basilisk attack. He used the shadowless curse taught by Snape to resist the basilisk and escaped with Hermione. "I always felt that Severus taught you such a dangerous spell a little too early. Now it seems that I was wrong. You did a good job, but where did you learn the flying magic?" Dumbledore knew that Snape wanted to teach George the shadowless curse, but Snape did not say that he wanted to teach George the flying curse. He had just confirmed with Snape that Snape did not taught. The key is that the flying magic displayed by George is also different from the flying magic Snape learned from Voldemort. The flying magic that Snape learned from Voldemort was to turn the body into a black shadow and fly at high speed in the air, while George's was to grow a pair of wings behind him and then fly by flapping the wings. George stood up and activated the wing magic, and the white magic wings appeared behind him again. "This is a new magic that I accidentally created with a flash of inspiration. I call it wing magic, which can transform into a pair of wings to take me flying like a bird." There are many differences between the magic in the Harry Potter world and the magic in the fairy tale world, but they are not completely different. After a period of research on the basic magic principles of the two worlds, he found that if the research is deep enough, it is not impossible to convert them to each other. For example, if the magic of fairy tale is cast in the way of casting in the Harry Potter world, the power will definitely be greatly improved with the blessing of the magic wand. The magic in the Harry Potter world is cast in the way of the fairy tale magic circle, which directly saves the time of waving the magic wand and chanting the spell. With his current magic level, he naturally can't do this, but it's no problem to do some theoretical mouth cannon. So when he demonstrated the wing magic and explained a small part of the principle of wing magic in the way of magic theory in this world, Dumbledore, Snape, and Professor McGonagall believed it immediately. Because the three of them were wizard legends and top wizards, they knew very well that the principle of wing magic that George said had not appeared in any magic book before, and it was indeed feasible. Chapter 118 Misunderstanding, 4th Update. I didn't expect that you could create such a difficult spell by yourself in the first grade. It's really great. Dumbledore, who had always been a little wary of George, couldn't help but admire George in his heart at this time. He felt that if George didn't go astray in the future, perhaps his attainments in magic would really make him one of the top wizards. Our Slytherin students are always excellent. Snape, who had been silent, smiled. He felt that George was very similar to him. As his last disciple, he not only mastered the sharp-edged shadowless curse so quickly, but also created his own spell. But George, creating a new spell is a very dangerous thing. You should be more cautious next time. If you don't understand anything, you must ask me first. There are many wizards in the wizarding world who died because of creating new magic. Luna's mother died accidentally because of this. So although Snape was very proud of George's creation of a new spell in the first grade, he still gave a very serious warning. Thank you, Dean. I will go to you for advice. Hearing Snape's words, George naturally agreed with all his heart. If Snape is willing to take more time to teach him, then he will definitely be able to improve his magic level faster and learn more spells for senior grades. The invisible body charm, the teleportation apparition, the animagus, the patronus charm, various magical alchemy and black magic, etc., there are still many things he needs to learn. Now that the matter is clear, Severus, Minerva, you escort them back to the common room. I will go to discuss the next arrangements with the school board. After asking everything clearly, Dumbledore waved his hand, and Professor Snape and Professor McGonagall took George and Hermione out of the principal's office. Hermione, I was surprised. With your intelligence, I believe you will create your own spells in the future. After leaving the principal's office, George saw that Hermione looked a little wrong, thinking that she was hit by a strong self-esteem, so he kindly comforted her. Hermione is a top student, but she believes too much in books, which makes her a little worse than wizards like Snape in creativity. But that is much better than the wizard talent of this body. He is mainly cheating. Ah, what? Oh. Yes, I will try hard. The blush on Hermione's face flashed, and then she nodded in a panic. She was not thinking about what George said just now. The expressions and conversations of George and Hermione all fell into the eyes of Snape and McGonagall, who were escorting them from behind, and both of them showed surprise on their faces. Then McGonagall's originally serious expression was filled with some ant-like smiles. She didn't expect that the most outstanding Miss Gryffindor in her college would have a special liking for the little wizard of Slytherin. However, as the Dean of Gryffindor, she didn't feel disgusted in her heart. After all, George, the little Slytherin, was also a student she liked very much, and George just saved Hermione from the mouth of the basilisk. This is like the plot that only appears in those love stories she read when she was young. As long as it doesn't affect the grades, she doesn't mind the little wizards dating. Hogwarts is very open in this regard. Otherwise, the Valentine's Day event proposed by Lockhart would not have been approved. If it were an ordinary Muggle school, if a teacher dared to take the lead in asking students to fall in love and write confession letters, or even use potions, he would be expelled the next day or even sent to the police station. As for Snape's expression, it was much more complicated. At first, he frowned, and then seemed to think of something, and his expression was a little dull and fell into some kind of memory. Finally, his face actually showed a trace of happiness that had never appeared before. "George, I'm going back first." Hermione greeted George in a somewhat flustered tone, and then walked quickly to the Gryffindor entrance on the 8th floor with Professor McGonagall. "Okay, say hello to Harry and Ron for me." George smiled and nodded, and continued to walk towards the stairs. The Gryffindor dormitory is also on the 8th floor, just a few turns away, and the Slytherin dormitory is in the basement of the castle. You need to go down the stairs to the hall, and then enter the basement. Is he scared? George didn't think much about Hermione's unusual behavior just now. His mind was full of the dark magic in the forbidden book section of the library. After returning to the door of the Slytherin common room with the usually taciturn Snape, George greeted her and was about to use the password to enter the common room when Snape suddenly said something that made him a little puzzled. "George, don't always indulge in magic. You should spend more time with her in normal times, especially across the college. It's not as convenient as being in the same college as her. If you accidentally say something hurtful, you must explain it clearly." After saying that, he turned around and left without waiting for George's reaction. George was also confused. Isn't he talking about Hermione? This is her and across the college. It's hard not to remind him of Hermione who just separated. Could it be that he thinks Hermione and I are in love? Blinking, he probably guessed what was going on. He felt that Snape might have seen the shadow of himself and the dead lily in him and Hermione. When compared like this, they do look somewhat similar. Snape was an excellent Slytherin, so was he. Lily was also the best Gryffindor at the time, and so was Hermione. Snape was a half-blood wizard, so was he. Lily was a little witch born of Muggles, and so was Hermione. Lily had a Potter at the same time, and Hermione also had a Potter at the same time, and they all had a good relationship. No wonder Snape said those things, because he didn't want him to repeat the same mistakes. However, this misunderstanding was too big. He liked Hermione. How could it be possible, a 13-year-old brat? Whether it was Harry, Ron, Colin, or Hermione, Ginny and Luna, he treated them all the same and treated them like children, without any other thoughts at all. Shaking his head, let the misunderstanding be a misunderstanding. Anyway, this kind of thing couldn't be explained clearly, and it wouldn't affect his plan. Noble. Reading out the password for this week, George pushed the door and walked into the Slytherin common room. As soon as he entered the common room, he was surrounded by young wizards, who began to ask him what happened. Because neither Dumbledore nor Snape said to keep it secret, he repeated what he had said in the headmaster's office before. Many young wizards were shocked to hear that the monster in the secret room was the terrible basilisk. However, there were some extreme ones like Malfoy, who believed that the basilisk would not attack Slytherins, but only Muggle-born wizards. When they heard that George had created flying magic, they were all stunned, especially George showed it to everyone in the common room. Chapter 119 The Three Unforgivable Curses and the Fierce Fire Curse, 5th update. The next morning, Snape came to the Slytherin common room early and issued a notice to all Slytherin wizards. From today on, all students must return to their college's common room before 6 o'clock in the evening. No student may leave the dormitory after this time. Each class is escorted by a teacher. No student may use the bathroom without a teacher. All Quidditch training and competitions have been postponed, and no activities will be held in the evening. When Snape escorted the Slytherin wizards to the Great Hall for dinner, George stepped forward and asked, "Dean, has the basilisk not been found yet?" "No, the pipes of the castle have been searched, but only some scales left by the basilisk have been found, and did not find the secret room where it was hiding," Snape replied. Dumbledore was temporarily suspended by the school board because of this incident, and he was left there after going to the Ministry of Magic in London last night. Before we find the basilisk and the real heir of the secret room, the school may be closed for a while. So you should be prepared. If you have any learning problems during the suspension, come to Spinner's End to find me. After the school is suspended, all teachers and students must leave the school, and the Ministry of Magic will send orders to block the school for a carpet search until the basilisk is found and killed before school can be reopened. But even Dumbledore can't find the secret room, and he doesn't think the orders of the Ministry of Magic can find it. So this suspension may not be short. As the best and most talented wizard in Slytherin, George doesn't want George to delay his studies because of this kind of thing. Thank you, Dean. George nodded, with a gleam in his eyes. Dumbledore was left in London last night, which means he can secretly go to the restricted area to learn the dark arts. After finishing their meal in the Great Hall in the morning, Harry and the other two found George again. I have decided to tell Dumbledore about the sound of the basilisk and the diary. Maybe this way we can catch the basilisk. After thinking all night, Harry made a choice. He did not intend to hide it from Dumbledore and the professors. But George shook his head. I learned from the Dean this morning that Dumbledore has been temporarily suspended and is now detained at the Ministry of Magic in London. He is not expected to come back in a short time. This is troublesome. Dumbledore is not in school. There will probably be attacks every day in the school. Ron was shocked when he heard this, and Harry and Hermione also frowned. Dumbledore, the pillar of stability, left the school, and they immediately panicked. Seeing this, George changed the subject and said, "Let's think about it carefully in the next few days, maybe we can think of some clues. I plan to go see Hagrid later. Since it has been confirmed that the monster in the Chamber of Secrets is a basilisk and not an acromantula, then Hagrid's crime that year is not established and should not be affected." "Okay, we will go too." Hermione immediately raised her hand, which surprised Harry and Ron. Hermione is not usually so active. So after breakfast, George, Harry and the other two went to visit Hagrid. Today is Sunday, and they don't have to go to class. From Hagrid, they learned that the Ministry of Magic came to inform Hagrid early in the morning that his punishment of being banned from using the wand was cancelled. It is said that although Dumbledore was temporarily suspended, he also provided evidence to prove that the monster in the Chamber of Secrets was not an acromantula but a basilisk. The Ministry of Magic therefore cancelled the verdict that Hagrid was a murderer and restored his right to use the wand again. Hearing this good news, Harry and the other two finally felt relieved. It was almost noon when they came back from Hagrid. George found a reason to leave the trio, found Lockhart, got a note and went to the restricted book section of the library. This time, he didn't feel like he was being watched. Killing curse, fiery curse, imperious curse, cruciatus curse, here I come. He let the Marvel world cooperate in front of the computer, and began to pick up the black magic books that he didn't dare to touch before, and copied them one by one. It was unrealistic to expect to memorize and understand those obscure black magic in one afternoon. But he could copy them all down first and study them slowly later. In this way, he copied until 5:30 in the afternoon, then he borrowed a normal magic book and left the library leisurely. In the next few days, he didn't go to the restricted book section of the library again. Once is enough, more times will easily arouse suspicion, and he has found all the spells he wants in half a day, and the next step is to slowly learn and practice. Summer came quietly, the sky of the castle and the surrounding lake turned into a light blue with purple light, and flowers as big as cabbages bloomed in the greenhouse. But the atmosphere in the castle became more and more tense. Dumbledore left, and fear was spreading rapidly in an unprecedented form. Every face in the school looked panic, and every laugh in the corridor seemed harsh, weird, and was quickly suppressed. It was another Saturday, and George secretly found an empty place in the Forbidden Forest and was practicing black magic. Sure enough, it's not that simple. At noon, he sighed and left the Forbidden Forest and walked towards the castle. Whether it is the fiery curse or the 3 unforgivable curses, they are all very advanced black magic. His efficiency of self-study is too low. But he couldn't ask any professor in the school, including Snape. Maybe, I need a master in this area. At this time, George suddenly remembered the soul of Voldemort in the diary. The soul of Voldemort in the diary was the soul that was split when he was 16 years old. Although the 16-year-old Voldemort certainly did not have as much knowledge as Voldemort himself, he felt that the 16-year-old Voldemort should have mastered a lot of black magic. It was more than enough to teach him, a novice. He didn't think about this before, because it was too dangerous for him to try to steal the diary at that time. It was easy to be discovered by Dumbledore and he might be controlled by Voldemort's soul. But now it's different. Dumbledore is still in the Ministry of Magic in London and can't come back for the time being. He has enough time to plan to steal the diary. With his current strength, especially after learning the light magic that restrains darkness and curses, it is definitely not easy for a mere soul of Voldemort to influence him. As he walked and thought, George gradually came up with a new plan in his mind. He is not a pedantic person. He has to have plans, but he also needs to know how to adapt. As his strength continues to improve, many of his original plans must be changed according to the changes in his strength in order to improve his strength more efficiently. Chapter 120 Sneaking into the Girls' Dormitory, Update 1. Ginny, what's wrong? You feel like you've been feeling very lethargic lately. During the flying lesson on Thursday afternoon, George smiled and walked next to Ginny, who was sitting alone against a big tree. Ginny loves flying lessons the most, and she has the craziest fun every time she takes flying lessons. However, recently, Ginny has no energy even during flying lessons. George, do you think a person will be forgiven if she makes a mistake that she did not intend? Seeing George coming, Ginny asked in confusion. George thought for a moment and replied. It depends on whether she is brave enough. It is not terrible if a person makes mistakes. No one is immune to mistakes. Even Dumbledore is said to have made many mistakes when he was young. But after realizing that she made a mistake, if she can bravely admit it and correct it in time, then she will definitely be forgiven. Really? As long as you correct it in time, you can be forgiven. Ginny's eyes suddenly burst into hope. Before school started, she found a magical notebook among the old books she bought. No matter what she wrote in it, the notebook would reply to her and provide her with useful advice. So she trusted the diary more and more, chatting with it every day and telling it all her secrets. Until one day, she found that her body began to lose control, and she even opened the secret room and released a basilisk to attack her classmates. She realized that there might be something wrong with the diary, so she secretly threw the diary into the bathroom, hoping that the sewer would flush it away, but Harry picked it up. Worried that Harry knew the secrets she had in the diary and the mistakes she had made, she went to the boys' dormitory and stole the diary. But in recent days, she found that she seemed to be controlled again, and even released a basilisk that almost killed her good friends George and Hermione, causing the Principal Dumbledore to be suspended. By the way, this is a bookmark I bought in Diagon Alley for Christmas. According to the boss, it can resist black magic and prevent curses, and bring good luck to its owner. Give it to you. George took out a butterfly-shaped iron bookmark from his wizard robe and handed it to Ginny. Ginny took the bookmark and finally a smile appeared on her face. Thank you, George, I like this bookmark very much. You still look cuter when you smile. George reached out and ruffled Ginny's hair, then stood up and left. Ginny looked at George's leaving figure and touched her hair. For some reason, there was a hint of blush on her face. At night, in the Gryffindor girls' dormitory, Ginny put the butterfly bookmark that George gave her into the terrible notebook. She hoped that the bookmark that George gave her could resist the diary's control over her. Tomorrow morning, I will tell Harry and the others everything. Putting the diary in the box under the bed, Ginny had already made a decision in her heart. George's words today gave her courage. At 2 o'clock in the morning, in the Slytherin boys' dormitory, George suddenly opened his eyes and sat up, then picked up his wand and pointed it at the 3 other little wizards in the same dormitory, and quickly cast 3 identical spells. Collapse. Although the 3 little wizards didn't have the habit of getting up at night, to be on the safe side, George thought it was better to give each of them a sleeping spell. He quietly left the Slytherin dormitory and came to a deserted corner outside the castle. A magic circle flashed across his body, and his size immediately expanded from a child to a figure that was taller than a normal adult. Then he pointed the wand at himself. Gorgeous transformation. The pajamas that were stretched to the point of bursting quickly turned into standard night clothes with only one pair of eyes exposed. The spell he cast on himself is called the Clothes Transformation Curse, which, like the snake summoning spell and the bird summoning spell, is one of the extended spells of transfiguration magic. It was a spell he learned in a magic book called How to Become an Elegant Wizard in the library. The function is also very simple, that is, you can change the clothes you are wearing into any style according to your own wishes, and you no longer need to worry about buying new clothes. In fact, if you spend more time reading in the library, you can really find a lot of weird magic spells. They may not have much power, but they can indeed make your life very convenient. They are all magic created by wizards for daily life. After doing all this, he flipped his hand and conjured a flying broomstick out of thin air. This broomstick was bought in Diagon Alley during the Christmas holidays, and was later brought to Hogwarts in a box that I had expanded with the invisible stretching charm. Because his costume-changing magic finally came into play recently, and he could open up a space big enough to put 2 magic weapons, so he put the broomstick in it. Why not use flying magic? Tonight he planned to sneak into the Gryffindor girls' dormitory to steal the diary, so naturally he couldn't reveal any flaws. He got on his broomstick and flew directly to the Gryffindor tower on the 8th floor. Based on the magnetic mark he had left on the butterfly, he quickly found the location of Ginny's girls' dormitory. The stairs at the entrance to all the girls' dormitories at Hogwarts have been cast with special magic, making it impossible for boys to enter. So if he wanted to sneak into the girls' dormitory and steal the diary, he couldn't enter from the common room and had to find the entrance from outside the tower. However, there is no magic at the entrance staircase of the Hogwarts boys' dormitory, so girls can enter and exit at will. Because of this, he is often mistakenly broken into the dormitory by girls of the same grade and senior grade with various excuses, which leads to him reading books in the library or an abandoned classroom in the basement. Ginny was able to break into Harry's dormitory and steal the diary at will because of this reason. Alaho! He stretched out his wand and tapped the window. After hearing a pop, he put away his flying broom and carefully pushed the window open and walked in. It seems that I found it right. Seeing Ginny sleeping soundly on the bed, George followed his induction and soon found the specific location of the metal butterfly. Sure enough. Carefully taking out the tattered diary from the box under the bed, a smile appeared on his face. The main purpose of those words said during the day was to let Ginny clip the metal butterfly bookmark in the diary for him to find it. Otherwise, he would have to search for a while after entering, which simply increased the risk of exposure. He threw Voldemort's diary directly into the dressing room. He did not leave through the window immediately, but pushed the door and walked out of the dormitory, heading towards the higher grade girls' dormitory. People always trust their own inferences the most. He planned to set up another maze to prevent his identity from being guessed. Dumbledore is too smart. If he doesn't make a few more preparations, he might not be able to fool him. I'm asking for monthly tickets at the end of the month. I'll work hard for another day. End of the chapter. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.